Did your mother come from Ireland? Aye, from County Cork. County Kerry, did you say? Or Galway Bay?
Now we'll take you there. Those lilting place names that roll off the tongue like a warm raindrop. Those counties celebrated with sweet tea sentiment in Tin Pan Alley ballads that make up today's Republic of Ireland. Seeing it on a map, this island looks as though it might be breaking away from the British Isles to make it on its own in the rough, grey Atlantic. The high kingdoms of Ulster, Leinster, Munster and Connacht, Erin in Gaelic, and to us, the Republic of Ireland, taking up 80% of the island. Not very big, 150 miles across and 315 miles from top to bottom, supporting 3.5 million souls.
Céad míle fáilte go héireann.
Welcome to Ireland. The fabled ring of Kerry. Cork, site of the Blarney Stone, which pilgrims suffer backache and vertigo to kiss. Wexford, ancestral home of John F. Kennedy. Gaelic Galway. And the bleak Isles of Arran. Wild Connemara. Sligo, in the breath of poets. Donegal, the Atlantic lapping at its doorstep. And fair Dublin town, the friendliest capital on earth. The golf lovers' Ireland. And especially the horse lovers' Ireland. The poets' Ireland. For this is a land of poets and wordsmiths, where eloquence is more highly regarded than affluence.
So that we try to feed a habit for everything, until the ego puppets, the militaries, mirror our own warring face. Too little peace.
Named after the island's longest river, Shannon Airport is the gateway to the Irish Republic when jetting over the Atlantic. This country boasts of some 900 castles, and just a mossy stone's throw from the airport rises a huge hulk called Bunratty that's been rehammered to its medieval glories. Clamped onto the castle bridge is Dirty Nellie's pub, dating from 1620. But County Clare has more to offer than Nellie's hospitality. The Cliffs of Moher, a 5-mile palisade of sheer rock rising out of the sea. And the Alwee Cave, with stalactites 1,000,000 years in the sculpting. The bones of hibernating bears have been found here. Bears have been extinct in Ireland for more than 1,000 years. 15 miles to the west of the airport stand the walls of Limerick. Limerick is the 4th largest city in the Republic, and a familiar name to anyone who ever made a witty verse in English.
There was a fair Irish city that lent its name to a ditty.
On one side of the Shannon, the city is called English Town. On the other side, Irish Town. Nearby Adair is one of the loveliest villages in the land. This forceful piece of sculpture is of Daniel O'Connell, and it stands on a street in Limerick that's been named after him. O'Connell is memorialized throughout the Republic as the Liberator. But liberator of whom? Who then are these irrepressible people who populate the Republic? What dazzling concoction of wizardry and whiskey and the wee folk bubbled up as the Irish race?
Long, long ago, beyond the misty space of twice 1,000 years, in Erin old there dwelt a mighty race taller than Roman spears.
Sure, and there were leprechauns and bog spirits more than 5,000 years ago, when Bronze Age men buried their dead here at Newgrange in County Meath. Then the Celts, fierce but canny, invaded from Central Europe and took over the island. They were fighters, the Celts, and splendid horsemen. Here on the hill of Tara, also in County Meath, their high kings held every third year great assemblies. For 2,000 years, Tara was Ireland's political powerhouse and most sacred pagan shrine. Now came another conqueror, but of a different sort. Patrick was born in Roman Britain and had been shunted to Ireland as a slave when he was only 16. He somehow got away. In the year 432, he returned as a missionary armed with the cross and the word. Here on the Hill of Slane, he lit a paschal fire and proclaimed his mission to the pagan Irish. The Rock of Cashel in County Tipperary had been a place of worship going back to the Gaelic beginnings. Kings were crowned here. Here Patrick baptized the High King of Munster and the royal family. And it was on Cashel that Patrick likened the Trinity to the three leaves of a shamrock. The new faith brush-fired over the land. Monasteries arose, great depositories of Greco-Roman and Christian learning. Irish monks, the most scholarly in Christendom, fanned out over Europe. More invaders. In AD 795, Norsemen swooped down on Ireland in their long, dragon-prowed ships. Their minds were on booty, not books. They ravaged the monks, the monasteries, and the pretty colleens. Their raiding bled on for 2 centuries. But the Vikings weren't all fire and broadsword. They settled down to become traders and founded the cities of Dublin, Wexford, Cork, and Limerick. Strongbow the Norman was the island's next conqueror in 1171. The following year, King Henry II of England staked out Ireland with Norman castles. So began the entrenchment of English rule. Erie. A moonscape, perhaps? No, it isn't the pocked surface of the moon. It's the Burren in County Clare. As bleak and forbidding as the somber history that it calls to mind. In the 1600s, the Catholic majority of Ireland revolted against their English masters. With 20,000 troops, Oliver Cromwell vowed to drive the rebels to hell or Connacht. By 1652, he'd massacred a third of Ireland's Catholics. Those spared were sold into slavery in the West Indies. On his march over the Burren, the complaint was heard, "Not enough wood to hang a man, not enough water to drown him, and not enough clay to cover his corpse." Yes, the Irish prayed for a liberator. Sadly, a century passed before he emerged. Of him, we'll see more. Going around in circles can be a joy, if you're circling the ring of Kerry. If it's clockwise you're going, then it's south on the Kenmore Road from Killarney, through Killarney National Park, to Derrynane, to St. Finans and Ballyskellig's Bays, and rounding it out at Kilorglin. About 110 miles in all, the most traveled scenic route in Ireland. If you detour via the Connor Pass, the ring can be bent northward to include Tralee and Ballybunion. Killarney National Park, Ireland's own lake country. Miles and miles of glorious lakes, sparkling under restless, changing skies. McGillicuddy's Peaks, the highest range of mountains in the land. Moorlands. Ocean currents keep the climate here mild, making for lush ferns and mosses, forming homes for leprechauns. This park holds the largest growth of natural woodlands remaining in Ireland. It's ruins now, but he was born here. In County Kerry in 1775, Daniel O'Connell, the Liberator. His ancestral home is here at Derrynane. He was a powerful orator, O'Connell. In 1828, he was elected to Parliament, but he was not allowed to take the seat he had won because he was Catholic. But the movement he championed was of such force that it scared London. O'Connell was elected again, and this time seated in the House of Commons. Brilliantly, he accomplished the emancipation of Ireland's Catholics. Then he set himself to repealing the Act of Union between Ireland and Great Britain. O'Connell was committed to reform and to activism within the law. But as a leader, he was dedicated to change without violence. But when he died in 1847, Ireland had yet to win its full freedom from Great Britain. Rough, dramatic, the Dingle Peninsula jutting bravely into the wild Atlantic. These waters are a graveyard for ships. A recent find was the wreck of the Santa Maria de la Rosa, a ship of the Spanish Armada that foundered in Blasset Sound. Dingle itself is a fishing town, lively, with plenty of tasty seafood. Today's Dinglers reside in dwellings undistinguishable from those of the rest of Ireland. But their ancient ancestors settled down in these unmortared beehive huts. They're called clachans. With tourism, there are options other than a beehive hut or a homey B&B. Some tourists see Dingle from Romany-like caravans, in imitation of a peculiar Irish breed. These young vacationers are from Sweden. They've rented a barrel-top wagon. They're adopting the lifestyle of a people once called tinkers, but who prefer to be called travelers. They're part of the landscape, the traveling people. About 20,000 of them wandering in wagons and vans. Nomads with their animals. But note, they are not gypsies. No one's really certain where they came from. No one has accounted for their language, called cant. For these people speak a language of their own. Whatever their origins, these traveling people have a rich and different culture. Tralee is County Kerry's biggest town, and it's never busier than in late summer when the Festival of Kerry is held. It draws from around the world. Hibernian ladies from several continents. Because the world over, most everyone is familiar with the words and melody of the Rose of Tralee. Who is most like the Rose of the song? Lovely young women from all over Ireland and the world are here to prove that they are, and to match charms in a competition for the festival crown. Among the Irish counties, there's a Colleen from Chicago. They're here from all over the globe, Melbourne, New South Wales, Toronto, Texas, California. It's Ireland's biggest bash. Ballybunion means town of the sapling in Gaelic, but to the Irish it means holidays, seaside holidays. It lays sunbathing on a coastline of sandy beaches and jagged cliffs. Old Lick Castle is a landmark of the grounds for which Ballybunion is best known, its golf courses. There are two 18-hole courses here. Champions say that the old course is one of the 10 toughest in the world. It's a wild place, a terrain as it was 1,000 years ago, where River Shannon meets the ocean. Tall grasses cover dunes that pitch and roll. Golfers, welcome to Ballybunion. In listing the fabled counties of the Irish Republic, it's usually Cork that comes first to mind. Cork on the Celtic Sea. Toward the Irish Sea are Cork's easterly neighbors, County Waterford and County Wexford. Cork, a coastline of jagged rock with bays deep enough for the big ships, inviting towns and villages folded into green hills and fields of fertile farmland. What County Cork is best known for is the most celebrated chunk of rock in the world, a 5-foot block of limestone in the parapet of Blarney Castle. Elizabeth I of England unwittingly christened it the Blarney Stone. The Queen had commanded Dermot McCarthy to hand over this castle. But McCarthy kept putting her off with sweet talk. Exasperated, the Queen exclaimed,
"Oh, that man's nothing but Blarney."
Today's pilgrims climb to the height of the battlements, empty their pockets of loose valuables, and clinging precariously to guardrails, lie down and arch back to kiss the surface of the magic stone. The payoff? The gift of eloquence. It's the second city. That's the city of Cork by the River Lee, with a continental air and a population of 140,000. A hilly, bustling, testy kind of town, with waterways all around. Cork citizens have a fierce sense of identity. It's said of Cork,
It's God's own place and the devil's own people.
just 15 minutes from the city of Cork stands Cobh. Its harbor handles the big ships. Cobh's maritime history is notable, and often, in human terms, strangely tragic. Cobh was the Titanic's last port of call before it sailed into its tragedy. Surveying Cobh today offers no clue to the place of the potato in its history, but here the port and the potato, or one of them, are fused. After the discovery of the Americas, an edible tuber made its way from the New to the Old World. Sir Walter Raleigh returned from his Virginia expedition with potato tubers, which were planted here on the grounds of Castle Matrix, the first grown in Ireland. The Irish peasant had been dreadfully undernourished. Then the spud made its entrance into his life. Here was a nutritious staple that could be grown in abundance on small plots of land. Plain folk and the potato. The peasant's daily diet improved. 6 pounds of potatoes and a pint of milk. The population increased. Gratefully, they might have prayed, "Give us this day our daily potatoes." Potatoes were life. Then it struck in 1845. A blight. The potato crop failed, and failed, and failed, and failed again. A great hunger fell over Ireland. Unable to pay the rents to their London landlords, Irish underdogs were driven off the land. The hungry ate grass. They died of starvation and dysentery. They died crawling in the streets, screaming for food. Of a population of 8.5 million, 1 million starved to death. Fleeing the famine, another million emigrated. For many of them, Cobh was their last sight of Ireland. They scrambled for steerage in what came to be called coffin ships. Some survived to build up their blood again in Britain, in Australia, in the New World. Emigrant ships calling at Cobh continued in the 20th century, into the years of World War I. Of the busiest of those crowded liners was the Lusitania. Then, in 1915, while steaming past Kinsale after embarking from Cobh, the Lusitania was torpedoed without warning by a submarine of the Imperial German Navy. 1,198 human beings perished. Several hundred of the victims were buried in the cemetery of the 12th century church of St. Multos. Today, there's a monument to those who perished, a reminder that the splendid port city of Cobh has been fraught with tragedy. But it's also been a port of hope. From the degrading hunger, from the coffin ships and the stifling steerage emerged the survivors. They peopled the burgeoning cities of North America, New York, Chicago, Boston. At first, they just managed to survive. In time, they prevailed. Dunganstown, County Wexford, Republic of Ireland. In 1848, a lad named Kennedy left this homestead, a thatched cottage at the time, to try his luck in America. In 1963, Kennedy's great-grandson made a pilgrimage to his ancestral home.
So now my wife and I prepare for a new administration and for a new baby. Thank you.
The Irish loved U.S. President John Fitzgerald Kennedy. They felt that he was one of their own. In his name, they've created a living memorial, the John F. Kennedy Arboretum, 8 miles from New Ross in the southeast corner of Ireland. Here grow trees and shrubs and plants in abundance, many donated from around the world. In a larger sense, this forest commemorates the great fulfillment after the Great Hunger. The name Waterford, as in County Waterford, rings throughout the world's boutiques, from the elegant crystal produced at Waterford City's glassworks. It's the largest glass factory in the world. 3,000 visitors a week watch as the ingredients are mixed, shaped, and with consummate skill, cut in the unique patterns that are a hallmark of Waterford. Where swans patrol them, The waters of Loch Corrib are calm. But these waters surge wildly when spilling into Galway Bay. Between Loch Corrib and the sea, they're thick with salmon. In this most sheltered corner of the bay is Galway, the most Irish city in Ireland. Though its imposing cathedral is strictly 20th century, Galway is old. Its beginnings were humble, a harbor and a hangout for fishermen. But by the 13th century, it had become sufficiently prosperous to enclose itself within thick walls to keep out the wild Irish. Then as now, Galway bustled. Trade, Market Street, Shop Street, Buttermilk Lane. Once swaggering Spaniards strutted up and down these streets because the Sou'Westerlies brought ships here from the ports of Spain. This was the largest parish church in medieval Ireland, dedicated to St. Nicholas, patron of travelers by land and sea. There's an intriguing old tale about this church. Christopher Columbus docked in Galway Harbor and prayed in this church before embarking westward in the Santa Maria. Given Galway's place on sea routes, the tale isn't as far-fetched as it may seem. Today, Lynch Castle is a bank, but during the city's heyday, it was a splendiferous mansion occupied by the Lynches, one of 14 powerful families or tribes that ruled Galway. Indeed, it was known as the city of the tribes in those days. Bank or castle? It's one of the finest old townhouses in Ireland. This is a monument to a storyteller, a Galway-born storyteller who wrote exclusively in the Irish language. Pádraig O'Conora. Oh, there were those who raised an eyebrow when a monument was erected. Old Paddy was never in one place very long. As a matter of fact, he was a bit of a hobo, with a weakness for the bottle. But his writings are much loved. Like O'Conora, Galway is, and lives, a folktale. An even deeper thrust into the Celtic twilight. Straddling the mouth of Galway Bay are the three islands collectively known as Erin, strangely remote, in distance and in time. They're treeless. Atlantic gales have stripped them bare. Wild and lonely, yet human beings have eked out a living here for 50 centuries. Life is hard for these islanders. These fields, which the islanders who farm them hopefully refer to as gardens, are marked off by irregular dry stone walls. These boundaries go back for generations, for centuries. Here, human communities, little worlds unto themselves, subsist on potatoes, milk, and fish. And there are wildflowers. The people here are steeped in folkways. Irish Gaelic is their workaday language. Out of politeness, they will speak English to visitors. This is the honored kind of boat used by the locals, the Curragh. made of laths and tarred canvas. Fishermen sail far out into the open seas in these craft. The stuff of legends, these islanders, a kindly but fearless people. These are the folk of Synge's haunting play, Riders to the Sea, and of American filmmaker Robert Flaherty's masterpiece, The Man of Erin. Erin beckons visitors seeking a way of life rooted in the timeless, the unchanging. You can explore on foot its pristine white sand beaches and probe the tide pools for what the sea has left behind. You can explore its tiny harbors and visit the graves of fishermen unknown to you, but in this place of crying winds and quiet courage, they're somehow kindred. You can traverse its stony fields in a light two-wheeled carriage. They're called Jerusalem Jeeps by the locals. You can breathe its briny, unpolluted air while pumping a bike. You can meander through its tidy towns where accommodations are family-run. You can browse through its shops for heavy sweaters or white sheep's wool, traditional Erin knitwear. Women of Erin used to knit these sweaters in family patterns and aid in identifying the bodies of fishermen who had drowned. This is the westernmost point of the islands. The next landfall is New York City. Though battered by the sea, Erin, on the outmost rim of Western Europe, remains untouched by the turbulence of the times we live in.
Living on the island is like living in no place on earth. It's the only place to be.
Connemara, a name that rolls off the tongue like honey. It's the name given to the western part of County Galway, stretching from Lough Corrib to the Atlantic. Landmark mountains brooding over it are the 12 Bends. It's a haunted land. Moors. Hidden lakes seeming to stretch into infinity. Lonely heaths, boglands, meandering streams, cataracts, bays as deep as the profound timelessness of Connemara itself, seas of waving grass. It's a place of few people, but with multitudes of memories, haunting memories of giants and dwarfs and warrior kings who ruled when this was an ancient Gaelic kingdom. Connemara enchants. It is more than sights and sounds. It's a way of feeling. Lying at the head of Clifton Bay is the market town of Clifton. Population just over 1,000. Yet it's referred to as the capital of Connemara. This place marks an event. On this bog, just south of Clifton, 2 daring pilots crash-landed their biplane on a flight that took off from St. John's in Newfoundland. There were William Alcock and Arthur Whitten Brown. That was on the 15th of June, 1919, the first transatlantic flight, before Lindbergh. It is fitting that it is in Connemara that those primal rhythms rising from the depths of the Irish soul are being served. Malachi Kearns makes drums, a tambourine-shaped drum called a bowran that's used in making traditional Irish music. With great care, a frame is shaped and sanded. Skins, goat and deer the most favored, are cured in lime and mixed with ingredients that are a guarded secret of every bowran maker. Skins are soaked, scraped, After the skin has been stretched for 2 or 3 days, it's transferred to the beechwood frame of a bowran. In times past, a sheep's leg was used as a beater. Today, beaters are made of fine woods. In the hands of a good player, the bowran can be exciting, evoking an ageless response, and a joyous one. The region languors into summer. Then, on the third Thursday in August, it bursts into high spirits with the Connemara Pony Show. Connemara is famous for its ponies. Some of these ponies seem as wild as the landscape. Legend has it that they're descended from Andalusian horses carried on board ships of the Spanish Armada. Horses that swam to the safety of these shores when their ships were sunk from under them. The Irish love horses. A good, fast horse and a rider with pluck are sport. And a social occasion as well. At any one time in Ireland, there are about 6,000 horses in training, some 28 race courses, and over 1 million fans a year. The toniest of equestrian events takes place from the first Tuesday of August through the following Saturday. The Royal Dublin Horse Show. There's an Englishness about this Dublin event, recalling the days when the Union Jack, and not the flag of the Irish Republic, flew over these showgrounds at Ballsbridge. Another event, the arrival of the President of the Republic. There's a contradiction here. The Irish fought long and hard against British kings and queens to become a republic and elect a president as its head. Yet this president presides over a royal horse show. Oh well, the Irish aren't ones to let a contradiction stand in the way of a good time. Perhaps even more than by the strains of their national anthem, today's Irish are united by the sound of a horse's hooves striking lightning from the earth. Following the coastline north to the enchanted landscape of County Sligo, this is Yates country. And more northerly still, in Ulster, County Donegal, buffeted by the sea. Haunting is the word for County Sligo. A rare other world of secret places, of specters and spirits, where belief in the supernatural is taken for granted. Sligo is old, staggeringly old. At Carramore sprawls a vast Bronze Age burial ground, going back 40 centuries. Cairns, dolmens. It was in Sligo that Nobel Prize-winning poet William Butler Yeats spent his summers as a youth. Here his imagination caught fire. Here at Loch Gill, where Yeats probed the soul of Ireland's Celtic past. Rhymes more than their rhyming tell of things discovered in the deep, where only bodies laid asleep. Yeats hated old age. Yet he grew old. He hated the idea of dying. Yet he died. He's buried in the churchyard at Drumcliff, under a piece of Sligo limestone chiseled with an epitaph that he himself had written. Cast a cold eye on life, on death. Horsemen, pass by. Where there are sheep, there's wool. And Donegal is one of the best places in Ireland to buy tweeds. The Atlantic pounding at its doorstep, County Donegal has launched fishing fleets and the Fighting O'Donnell clan into the maelstrom of Irish history. Respect for the sea is profound. Independence, fierce. Irish is spoken here. More people speak the Irish language in Donegal than in any other county in the Republic. But the Donegal dialect has much in common with the Gaelic spoken in the Scottish Highlands. Indeed, Donegal has strong ties with Scotland. In Christian times, it came to be known as the Blessed Well, but Doon Well is pagan. Pilgrims wind bits of clothing and personal effects onto nearby bushes, masking the foliage with frippery. Then they circle Doon Well ritualistically. The belief in the curative powers of the well's waters goes deeper than the well itself, down to the Druids of Donegal. The blessing of the fleet at Killybegs is more in keeping with the Irish faith. Killybegs, meaning the little churches, is a natural harbor in a sheltering inlet of Donegal Bay, and an important port in the herring trade. The fishing fleet merits the blessing of a bishop for calm waters and a full harvest from the sea. Eastern Ireland, facing the Irish Sea, abounds in sights just an hour or so from the capital. But the dearest sight is Dublin itself, full of churches, pubs, and pluck. 73 miles southwest of Dublin is a jewel on the banks of the River Nore. Kilkenny was once the capital of the Irish Confederation. Though its population stands at only 10,000, Little Kilkenny insists on being regarded as a full-grown city. City or town, it's a treasure of medieval haunts. Dublin's neighboring county Wicklow is graced by the refinements, the tastes and fancies of another age. Powers Court. This is one of the last great formal gardens of the old world. Flowing from east to west is the River Liffey. In its meanderings, its waters become musky and as green as Ireland itself. From its banks and from an overflow of history sprang Dublin town, Dublin's fair city. But it all started with the river. In heartfelt gratitude to the river, today's city fathers commissioned this magnificent fountain. Dubliners promptly christened it the Floozy in the Jacuzzi. population? A tad under 1 million, including suburbs. Seat of Dublin County, province of Leinster. True, it's been a capital only since 1921, but it's the one capital Ireland's ever had. And it's the most hospitable bustle bug on earth. Bridges link the city's north to south. This arching cast iron footpath's called the halfpenny, recalling the time when a halfpenny was charged for a crossing. Centuries ago, the 9th to be exact, there was no city here. Then Vikings invaded and built a stronghold at a place called Dark Pool, Duv Linn in Gaelic. The name stuck. The town the Vikings built, which had been buried for centuries, stood between Christchurch and the river. During the 1970s, it was excavated. Remains of houses, walls. It was though an engulfed town surfaced before our eyes. Shields, axe heads, combs, bowls and spoons, coins, and locks, masks. As well as being marauders, Vikings were merchants. Dubliners can't resist breathing some high spirits into their city's murky beginnings. In a recreated Viking village at the excavation site, players with a bent for history portray their ancestral Dublin Danes.
Of course, there's always me shellfish, cockles and...
Breathe! Do you hear me talking to you? These people don't want fish now. Will you run along and...
They do want
What do you mean they do?
You see, they all eat fish.
You've never met these people before.
Every single one
How
of them.
do you,
They
you
all
don't know
eat
these
fish.
people?
I know by looking at them.
You know by looking at them. Don't be such a stupid old woman.
I'm not
Will you
being
go
stupid.
along after
No,
that?
I'm supposed
Go
to tell-
along there,
No.
please. Go.
Here, the visitor joins in a reliving of early Dublin life in the housing of the times. Historically, these Vikings became Christians and intermarried with the Irish. In the 12th century, Normans arrived by way of England. But they established power only over a strip of land on the east coast known as the Pale. Anything outside of it was referred to as beyond the Pale. Dublin Castle was begun by England's King John, and medieval Dublin grew up around it. Starting with the reign of the First Elizabeth, it was England's foothold in the territorial conquest of the Irish island. As seen today, Dublin Castle wears architectural add-ons of 18th century elegance. The 18th century saw Dublin's golden age. The cornerstone of Parliament House was laid in 1728. Though one of the statues that ornament it represents wisdom, it was folly for the Irish Parliament to vote itself out of existence as it did in 1801, when its befuddled MPs passed the Act of Union with Great Britain. From then on, Ireland was governed from London. Dedicated in the 12th century, St. Patrick's Cathedral has had several faceliftings since. It's the largest church in Ireland, standing on the site where Patrick himself baptized 500 pagan Irish into the faith. Oliver Cromwell had shown his contempt for the Irish by stabling his horses inside. Starting in 1713, these sacred precincts were a seat of literary assaults, of razor-sharp tracts that slash into the injustice of the times. That is, for the 35 years that Jonathan Swift was dean here. Swift is renowned for his classic Gulliver's Travels, but his brilliant irony was simply too much for the readers of his day. He's buried here in St. Pat's. Trinity College was founded by England's Elizabeth I on the site of a monastery that had been sacked by her father, Henry VIII. In the 1750s, it got a facelift. For over 4 centuries, Trinity College has been a beehive of higher learning and endless talk. It's a 40-acre campus. Trinity's library houses Old Ireland's highest artistic achievement, the Book of Kells. These 9th century renderings of the Gospels are bound into 4 volumes. Each day, with loving care, another page of dazzling beauty is turned for the visitor to behold. The busy O'Connell Street Bridge couples the city's nitty-gritty north side with its gentrified south side. The dominant colossus is of the man himself, Daniel O'Connell, the liberator. Parnell's remembered in a city square named after him. Charles Stewart Parnell championed Home Rule for Ireland in the British House of Commons. Parnell's shining career was tarnished when it came out that he'd been carrying on for years with a woman named Kitty, who was married to a Captain O'Shea. The American Revolution has its Liberty Bell, the French its Bastille. But only Dublin could turn this granite hulk of a post office into a shrine to liberty. A shrine consecrated by Irish blood. 1916, the Monday after Easter. Dublin's main post office was besieged by a band of patriots, just 150 of them, some armed awkwardly with old rifles. They were teachers, intellectuals, idealists, talkers, not terrorists. From the steps they boldly proclaimed an Irish Republic, complete independence from Great Britain. Most of the Dubliners who bothered to listen refused to take them seriously. But there was looting. British soldiers were sent in. Arrests were made. What had been an outburst of bluster suddenly became grim. On the 3rd day of May, leader Pádraig Pearse and 2 others were shot by a British firing squad. The next day, more were executed. Then more, and more, and more. Things changed. As the poet Yeats wrote, all changed utterly. A terrible beauty is born. The rebels were no longer comic. They had become martyrs. Those firing squads triggered half a decade of civil war. Then, on December 5, 1921, 800 years of Englishmen trying to impose royal rule on their Irish neighbors came to a halt. At last, Ireland was free. This scarred old building is still in use as a post office. Fashionable Dublin still basks in the glow of a vanished age. It's a city for strolling, a city of graceful squares and the welcoming doors of Dublin. Richly painted Georgian entrances radiating fan lights and embellished with polished brass. Some of these doorways lead to the cradles of famous and sometimes infamous writers. The poet Yeats was born at number 5 Sandymount Avenue. Notorious for his rapier wit, Oscar Wilde was born at number 21 Westland Row. Though Dublin is something more than a bat's flight from Transylvania, novelist Bram Stoker was born here. He wrote Dracula. George Bernard Shaw first learned the ABCs of the language he used so brilliantly at number 33 Sing Street. Here, on Leinster Lawn, is where Shaw played hooky as a schoolboy, the National Gallery, housing a collection of splendid works, Rembrandt, Velázquez, Goya, El Greco. The National Gallery was the place to which Bernard Shaw owed his early education, so he claimed. Shaw, whose plays had tickled audiences into a higher social consciousness, left a third of his estate to the National Gallery. That's considerable, taking into account the royalties from such works as Pygmalion, which was made into one of the biggest money-making musicals in theatrical history, My Fair Lady. There's a backdoor Dublin, too, north of the Liffey. This is the grubby Dublin of Sean O'Casey, master of the tragic comic in his plays The Plough and the Stars and Juno and the Paycock.
Carrots or onions there, 2 pence for 30 pence.
Brash.
I hope I don't break that bloody camera.
I don't know.
I generally do.
Lively.
Would you not bring him over and get his face washed?
And buoyed with wit as colorful as its stalls of produce. The down-to-earth Dublin of the Moore Street Market.
Who's got the sense of humor?
We all have. We all have. We all have. Just one day at a time for us.
This venerable market is manned by weathered Amazons. Crones from the Cabbage Patch, who through more decades than they dare add up have seen it all.
I'm too yuppie for her. Madonna. Say Madonna.
From the lush, youthful strawberry, all juice and sugar, to the dusty potato, as old and lumpy as the earth.
30 a pound there, the sound tomatoes.
That house painter turned word painter, Brendan Behan, knew well the Moore Street Market. Its cheek, its smells, its cadences. Behan had turned to the stage, as had so many other Irish writers before him, helping to make the Dublin theatre scene one of the most dazzling in the world. The Abbey. Out of the strivings for independence grew Ireland's national theatre. The Abbey is a shrine to the Irish flair for words, for the tragicomic. Much of the credit for the Abbey's founding goes to the remarkable Lady Augusta Gregory. She shared the theater's directorship, and she herself wrote some 40 plays. Downstairs, the Abbey feeds a sibling, the Peacock Theatre. The Peacock delves into plays in Gaelic and the experimental.
So we turned into Barney Kearns. And there, sure enough, up in the corner, was the citizen, having a great confab with himself. And that bloody, mangy mongrel Gary Owen.
Still, to many Dubliners, south of the Liffey is where the action is. Dublin's smartest shops are on Grafton Street. Grafton ends at St. Stephen's Green, the city's landmark park. 22 acres of trees, ponds, fountains, and flowers. Until 1663, this was an open common. This is the green heart of James Joyce's Dublin. Crossing Stevens, that is, my green. Not since Shakespeare has a writer used the English language with such originality as Dublin's most famous son, James Joyce. James Augustine Aloysius Joyce was born at number 14 Brighton Square in Rathgap, south suburban Dublin. His father was a rates collector. This is Sandy Cove on Dublin Bay. Sandy Cove is still a place where Spartan gentlemen bathe in the rough, cold sea. In 1904, Joyce had lived there in this squat stone tower. Today, it's the James Joyce Museum, housing the writer's furniture and mementos, piano, neckties, guitar. When he was about 30 years old, Joyce courted a young woman named Nora Barnacle. Nora returned Joyce's romantic interest. They went off together to the European continent as self-styled exiles. In time, Joyce and Nora married. Joyce spent much of his time writing books. The going was tough. But Nora stuck with him, even though she wasn't sure what his books were all about. By the time he died in 1941, this sparse, nearsighted man had become a colossus of 20th century literature. James Joyce had not been back to his hometown in over 30 years, yet in all of his works, he had written of nothing but Dublin. To him, Dublin was the dead center of the universe. In the tremendous vitality of his prose, Dublin is the stage upon which the human tragicomedy is acted out. Yes, lived.
Then I ask with my eyes to ask again, yes. Then he asked me, would I yes to say yes? And his heart was going like mad, and yes, I said yes, I will, yes.
We sometimes forget that English is not the native language of the Irish people. It was forced on them. In adopting it, they created an Irish English. A rich froth of wit and whimsy tops the conversational flow. The ancestors of these people were bards, poets, storytellers. Today, a storyteller in a pub strikes the same note.
Waver by as the evening poises with a blackbird on its table of hay. Just that. And here and there, a gate.
There are 10,500 of these pubs in the country, one for every 350 citizens. And there's always a grand welcome. Here, the gab is as heady as the Guinness. The pub crowd becomes family, and the pub itself a celebration of Ireland. But dear Ireland is more than the bravado of her talk, or a love for dogs. And horses. More than her haunting history, her wild seas, the emerald facets of her landscapes, more than her countryside, so unspoiled, so frankly rural. More than that secret scripture of the poor, the Irish language. It is Ireland's fundamental peopleness, the wonder of simply being a person that so many of us have lost still lingers here. And oh, the dreaming, the dreaming.
The film you are about to see was made by travelogue Buddy Hatton. Buddy's show business career began at the age of 6 months and is still going strong. His friendly voice is frequently heard over the airwaves in San Francisco, and twice he has received the award for the Best Canadian Male Television Performer of the Year. The gleam in his eye and warmth in his voice have made him a favorite among travel lecturers. And now, let's join Buddy Hatton as he shares an insightful look at the Emerald Isle in his film, Song of Ireland.
I'll take you home again, Kathleen. On the east coast, nestled by the Irish Sea, is Ireland's 1,000-year-old capital city, Dublin. From the steps of the General Post Office on O'Connell Street, the formation of the Irish Republic was declared in 1916. The events of the following years led to the emergence of Dublin as the capital of the small but independent state. Today, Dublin is the political and economic center of this region and is rich with Irish history and culture. In the heart of Dublin is O'Connell Bridge, which is wider than it is long, crosses the River Liffey. North of the bridge runs O'Connell Street, also named for Daniel O'Connell, a civil and human rights advocate. O'Connell Street is a wide avenue of cafes, restaurants, stores, and the famous old General Post Office. At the head of the street is the famous statue of that Irish freedom fighter of the 1880s, Daniel O'Connell himself. South of O'Connell Bridge are two of the oldest landmarks in Dublin, the Bank of Ireland, once the 18th century Parliament House, and Trinity College, viewed from the College Green on Westmoreland Square. Trinity College was founded in 1591 by Elizabeth I of England. The National Library was founded in 1877 and has been housed on Kildare Street since 1890. The old library, high and dark, is still used for study, hundreds of centuries-old books and manuscripts, but the pride of the library is the Book of Kells, an illuminated manuscript of the Gospels dating from the 8th century. Each day, a single page is turned. One of Dublin's busiest streets, closed to all but pedestrian traffic, is Henry Street. Nearby is the Moore Street Market. Colorful vendors loudly hawk fruits, vegetables, and flowers from their carts like many of their ancestors before them. The fresh fruits and vegetables found on Moore Street begin their journey just a few blocks away in the produce market. Not much has changed here over the years. Dublin's Georgian heritage has been preserved here, as it has through much of the city. There is no other city quite like Dublin. And for those who like to raise a pint, Dublin is a pub crawler's paradise. In 1198, the old Brazen Head started it all. There are more than 500 pubs, and some have some very interesting names.
He lived on the dockside near Liverpool town, and he always went down to the thief and the vagabond. Everyone knew him as Dublin O'Shea. Some say he came from Killarney. Have another drink, boys.
The Barry Fitzgerald pub is named for one of Ireland's most famous and beloved actors. It's located across the street from the Abbey Theatre, founded in 1904 by Lady Gregory and W.B. Yeats. Here, some of the world's most famous actors and writers started: Arthur Shields, Orson Welles, Sarah Allgood, George Bernard Shaw, and James Joyce. W.B. Yeats and Lady Gregory played a vital role in the Irish cultural renaissance of the early 1900s. Dublin is truly a wonderful city for theater. Parnell Square is dedicated to the memory of Charles Stewart Parnell, founder of the Irish National League in 1885. Although a popular folk hero, Parnell fell from grace when the scandal of his longtime love affair with Miss Kitty O'Shea came to light and his wife divorced him. Parnell died in 1841, some say as a result of his indiscretions. Time has forgiven him his affair and remembers him rather as a great hero for Irish independence. Dublin Castle is a beautiful Georgian rebuilding of a 13th century Norman structure. The elegant state apartments were the scene of elegant balls and banquets given by English lords throughout British rule for the upper crust of Irish society. Now, Irish presidents are inaugurated in Dublin Castle, and visiting heads of state are entertained within its walls. Leinster House is the seat of Irish Parliament. The design of the White House in Washington, D.C. is based on Leinster House. Dating from 1864, the National Gallery houses more than 2,000 works of art, including a large collection of Irish landscape paintings and a collection of Dutch masters. Near the Four Courts building, Ireland's High Court of Justice, is the quaint pedestrian Halfpenny Bridge that crosses the River Liffey. It got its name because that's exactly the toll they charged years ago, half a penny to cross the Liffey. There are dozens of beautiful parks in Dublin, but the most famous is St. Stephen's Green. In the 18th century, St. Stephen's Green was one of the most fashionable places to be seen. Today, it offers visitors a scenic and peaceful refuge from the noise of the city. In 1880, the Guinness family, known for their fine ale and philanthropic gestures, donated funds to build flower gardens and an ornamental lake for waterfowl. Feeding the ducks and geese is still a favorite pastime at St. Stephen's Green. Some of Dublin's finest houses face Merrion Square. Colorful doorways flanked by gracious columns are topped with intricately detailed fan lights. No two are alike. Past residents of these homes have been just as distinctive. Daniel O'Connell, W.B. Yeats, the Duke of Wellington, and Sir William and Lady Wilde. The parents of Oscar Wilde lived here at number 1 Merrion Square. In 1970, the well-preserved remains of a Viking city were uncovered here. Despite a public outcry to preserve it, an office complex was built on top of it. In the background, Christ Church Cathedral. St. Patrick's, dedicated in 1192, is the better known of Dublin's two cathedrals. According to legend, St. Patrick struck the ground and caused water to gush forth to baptize converts in the year 450. This stone marks the spot. Jonathan Swift, the author of Gulliver's Travels, was Dean of St. Patrick's between 1713 and 1745 and is buried here. St. Patrick's Cathedral has belonged to the Church of Ireland since the Reformation. The Dublin Zoo, third oldest in the world, is here in Phoenix Park. The zoo's directors are constantly bringing in new attractions from all around the world that are of interest to visitors. China's famous golden monkeys are drawing thousands of curious onlookers every day. The Dublin Zoo is truly an animal lover's paradise. Dublin Zoo has been home to some of the most celebrated members of the animal kingdom. This is the great-great-grandson of Leo, the MGM Film Studios lion. Leo was born here in 1920. Another famous baby is Cheetah, whose ancestor romped with Tarzan and Jane in the movies. And these babies, mild and gentle, will grow up to weigh 800 pounds and have the strength of 10 men. Aww. The City of Dublin International Rose Trials are held every year in St. Anne's Park. The roses on trial here are the newest from seedlings still unnamed. If a rose wins a prize or shows some potential, the breeder may continue breeding. But less than 10% of the roses introduced here will ever be seen again. There were 45 cultivators from all over Europe competing here. It takes them 10 years and about $10,000 to produce a commercial rose, one that will be sold in nurseries as a recognized rose. The Irish Rose Festival is held every year in late July or early August in Dublin. Pastoral landscapes dotted with Norman castles and quaint little towns color the southeast counties. The graceful old city of Kilkenny was once the capital of Ireland. Despite its small size, the people of Kilkenny proudly insist that this is not a town but a city. The tower of St. Canice's Cathedral offers the best view of the area. Kilkenny was the site of Parliament from 1642 to 1648. When Oliver Cromwell arrived in 1650, he destroyed much of the city as he did so many other areas in Ireland. It's a measure of the people's pride in their city that most of the great buildings have been restored, making Kilkenny one of Ireland's real jewels. Kilkenny Castle was the home of the founding Butler family. In 1966, the family gave the castle to the city of Kilkenny, which is now open to the public. Its most spectacular feature is the long gallery adorned with portraits of the Butlers dating from the 14th century. The tiny village of Dundrum is located in County Tipperary, known for its excellent pasture lands and livestock. Jaunting carts carry visitors to the Dundrum House, a beautiful Georgian mansion surrounded by 2,400 acres of lush green countryside. The estate was once the home of Irish chieftains, the O'Dwyers. The present owners have restored the house as a lovely inn catering to discriminating guests. Just outside the hotel, some of the best steelhead and trout fishing in Ireland awaits the crafty angler. Have you ever dipped a line in more beautiful surroundings? You talk about Irish green. Surely for dinner tonight it'll be wonderful trout from the icy cold streams of Dundrum in County Tipperary. Legend has it that St. Patrick likened the shamrock to the cross and explained the concept of the Holy Trinity to listeners as he preached at the Rock of Cashel. The rock and its fascinating collection of ruins rises 200 feet above the surrounding plains. Visitors are welcome to climb the top to view an 11th century tower, a 13th century cathedral, and several other structures and monuments. Ballyporeen would be just another pretty village if it weren't for the fact this is the ancestral home of former President Ronald Reagan. The townspeople's grandest day came when President and Mrs. Reagan visited here in 1984. Just stop by the Ronald Reagan Pub and they'll tell you all about it. On the outskirts of Ballyporeen lies the centuries-old Templetenny Cemetery. Here, Michael Reagan, Ronald Reagan's great-grandfather, is buried, along with Michael's own ancestors. It's a peaceful place. In the south is Cork, Ireland's largest county, claiming some of the richest farmland and most beautiful coastlines in the country. Situated on an island in the River Lee, Cork City is a bustling metropolis and the second largest city in Ireland. Its people are known for their strong accents, warm hearts, and belief that Cork is the loveliest city in the world. At the turf accountant, this fellow says, "My uncle died in America. It's his money you're winning." The Shandon steeple of St. Anne's Church is a popular stop for visitors. Here you can climb the tower and serenade the city by playing the bells. Just follow the numbers. What do you think of first when someone mentions Blarney Castle? Sure, kissing the Blarney Stone tops the list. Folks from everywhere climb the steep steps and wait in line to bend over backwards and kiss the stone of eloquence, the Blarney Stone. I asked one visitor how she felt after kissing the Blarney Stone, and she told me, "I don't feel one bit more elegant." I said, "Eloquent, not elegant." She said, "Well, I ain't that either." "5 miles down the harbor from Cork City is Cove. From this pier, thousands of immigrants left the poverty and political unrest of Ireland with the hope of a better life in the United States. Ironically, this was also the last port of call for a luxury liner named the Titanic. 18 miles south of Cork City is the port town of Kinsale. It's a joy for sightseers. For a community of less than 2,000 people, Kinsale has far more than its share of beauty, historical interests, and gourmet restaurants. It was once a naval port, but now it's known for its fishing industry and its fine, natural harbor. It's a great spot to fill your photo album with lots of colorful pictures. The old head of Kinsale is a cliff 10 miles south of Kinsale. In 1985, Ballinspittle became famous when thousands of pilgrims saw the statue of the Virgin Mary rock and move her hands. Ireland's wettest and greenest county is also her most picturesque, County Kerry. The village of Killarney is the market center of the Kerry Lake District. All the amenities for a perfect Irish holiday are here, including picturesque hotels and little out-of-the-way restaurants. Chef Cyril Boggins is the owner of the Whaler Inn. Here he readies one of his specialties, Irish smoked salmon.
Every day I get it in fresh, like the fresh salmon. I smoke the salmon with this. I use the natural oak shavings. It takes about 8 hours or so to smoke the side of smoked salmon properly.
Believe me, it's every bit as delicious as it looks. The Great Southern Hotel is the largest in Killarney, with 180 rooms, beautiful gardens, and an exceptional restaurant. The hotel is only open during the summer months, but it's a perfect spot to begin a tour of County Kerry. One of the most popular ways to tour the area is by jaunting cart. The Jarvey, or driver, will be your tour guide. The enchanting 10,000-acre Muckross estate is a must-see for visitors. Here, the last of the Kerry cattle graze. Only 50 of them are left in the world. The Tudor-styled Muckross house was built in 1843. The entire estate now belongs to the National Parks and Monument Service. Everything is kept exactly as it was 150 years ago. The Muckross house is only open in the summer. Like the rest of Killarney, rests during the winter months. A huge staff of servants and cooks prepared many important dinners in this kitchen. Food was kept warm in hay boxes like these. The dining room hasn't changed since Queen Victoria's visit in 1861. The intricate Italian sideboard and table were commissioned for her visit. The house now serves as a folk museum. The azalea-laden garden and manicured grounds are kept perfectly groomed all year. From the house, a lovely view of Muckross Lake awaits you. On the upper lake, you can explore the ruins of Innisfallen Abbey, built in the 7th century. There's only one way to get here. That's by boat. While on Innisfallen Island, take a moment to enjoy another view of the meeting of the waters and Old Weir Bridge. Well, no matter what the weather, a journey around the 110-mile ring of Kerry on the Ivernaw Peninsula is unforgettable. Speaking of the weather, the Irish say, if you look at a mountain and see the top, that means it'll rain tomorrow. If you can't see the top, it's raining now. Hundreds of different wild flowers add lots of color to your adventure. As you drive along the coastal road, you'll come upon the colorful hamlet of Sneem, which many visitors have described as a large-scale village of children's dollhouses. Things haven't changed here either in years. The front of each house is painted each year a different pastel color. The villagers draw lots to see what color their homes will be next year. Sneem has a quiet, proud way of attracting tourists. Continuing around the Ring of Kerry, the road climbs to Mall's Gap and Ladies' View. The scenery along the way reminds us of the unspoiled, natural wonder of Ireland. At the top, Ladies' View provides an outstanding view of the upper lakes and the largest lake of all, Loch Lean. Meanwhile, back in Killarney, every pub is packed because this is the eve of the Irish Football Championships. The next morning, thousands of fans from County Cork and County Kerry meet on the streets of Killarney on their way to the football stadium. The Irish Football Championship is every bit as colorful and as exciting as the American Football Super Bowl, complete with cheerleaders and marching bands. It's a grand day for Kerry. The local lads win the Irish Football Championship. Another very nice, but very slow way to travel across Ireland is by caravan. What a wonderful way to explore the Dingle Peninsula with its quiet, clean beaches. The most beautiful scenery in all of Ireland, many an Irishman will tell you. John Millington Synge expressed his love for West Kerry this way. One wonders in these places why anyone is left in Dublin or London or Paris, when it would be better to live in a tent or hut with this magnificent sea and sky, and to breathe this wonderful air which is like wine in one's teeth. More than 400 unmortared beehive huts have been found in the area. Centuries ago, these stone shelters provided protection from the sometimes harsh ocean winds for the monks as they made their pilgrimages up the Dingle Peninsula. Nearby is the Gallerist Oratory, which dates to the 8th century It's the best example of dry masonry in all of Ireland and probably anywhere else in the world. Farther up the road is Brandon Creek, which empties into Brandon Bay. Both were named after the 8th century Irish explorer St. Brendan, who set sail from here for the New World, which was, as many an Irishman will tell you, the true first discovery of America. The Dingle Peninsula is what we all dreamed Ireland would be like, and is. The Midwestern counties contain a richly textured variety of landscape and at least 40 shades of green. In Western Ireland, we visit County Clare, home of Shannon Airport, a popular port of entry because of its duty-free shop. What started as a small kiosk in 1947 grew into the world's first duty-free airport with a massive superstore catering to travelers from around the globe hungering for Irish goods. Now, how many times have you said after you got back home, why didn't I buy this or that while I was there? Now I'll never get it unless we go back. Well, the bright folks at Shannon capitalized on this idea and started the Shannon mail order business, publishing their first catalog in 1954. The most popular items offered are Waterford and Galway Crystal. Like its parent duty-free store, the mail order company started on a very wee scale and quickly developed into a large, highly profitable export business. From the minute your order is received, the wheels start in motion. Your order is filled, sent to the shipping room, and sent back in the post to you. Irish coffee first saw the light of day when Shannon-based chef Joe Sheridan blended coffee, cream, and Irish whiskey together more than 40 years ago to warm the spirits of cold and weary passengers. You know you're really in Ireland when you arrive at Old Dirty Nellie's Pub and Bunratty Castle, which are just outside the airport on the banks of the River Shannon. In the 1950s, the castle was restored to its 15th century splendor. Here, visitors are served medieval cuisine and are serenaded by beguiling colleens in period costumes. The Bunratty Folk Park is a real gem. It's like stepping back into time. It contains more than 20 replicas of rural and urban houses exactly as they would have appeared to a visitor to Midwestern Ireland in the late 19th century. Adair is on the road to Killarney. This well-tended village is admired for its many beautiful flowers and gardens, more typical of an English town than that of Irish. This is due to the influence of a 19th century English earl who lived here and developed the town. Adair is certainly picturesque. On the outskirts of the village are the ruins of 15th century Desmond Castle. Against this enchanting background, a private golf course mysteriously winds its way through the fortress grounds past an ancient 15th century cemetery. One golfer told me, when your ball lands in here, it's a truly dead ball. This hardy tree, hundreds of years old, has grown around the headstone, which is even older. The narrowest streets in County Clare are found in the little town of Ennis. The bakery is famous for its soda bread. We were in Ennis for the Boys' National Hurling Championships of Ireland. The opening ceremonies are held each year at St. Flanagan Seminary, located on the edge of town. Every town in Ireland big enough to have a team is represented in Ennis today. Hurling is known by its fans as Murder Incorporated.
The ball in the center of the field now.
It is non-stop mayhem.
Sets up a Corofin attack. Richard, gentlemen. O'Reilly puts the ball in.
Ennis and County Clare win the Boys National Hurling Championships of Ireland. If you are as charmed by Irish country life as most people, you might be curious about the price of homes here. This 3-bedroom house sitting on a corner lot in Ennis will sell for about $61,000. A 4-bedroom bungalow overlooking Limerick Road might sell for $73,000. It's just a mile from the center of town. A different 4-bedroom home with a garden and beautiful grounds could sell for about $80,000. This lovely Georgian-style abode has a drawing room with a marble fireplace and 4 bedrooms. It might sell for around $92,000. This brand new estate on 1.5 acres is called Graceland. It's for sale for $115,000. Perhaps you prefer a more rural environment. Here's one that just happens to be for sale, a real stud farm. Comes complete with a 2-storied mansion and it's being sold completely furnished, lovely entrance hall, beautiful parlor, and formal dining room. 600 acres of land, ruins of a 13th century church, indoor and outdoor arenas. Asking price, $1.75 million. Western Ireland is dramatic, with its mountains, stony fields, windswept cliffs, and centuries unchanged Aran Islands. Near the top of the list of Ireland's greatest natural wonders are the Cliffs of Moher, located along the coast between Lascanor and Doolin. Visitors come from all over the world to see the cliffs, and some have some very unusual transportation. The cliffs are more than 5 miles in length. At their highest, rise more than 700 feet straight up from the sea. At their summit stands O'Brien Tower, an observation post built in 1835. All the better to see the awesome Cliffs of Moher. Just 15 minutes by air from Galway City are the 3 Aran Islands, Inishmore, Inishmaan, and Inisheer, inhabited long before recorded history and the true heart of Gaelic Irishness. For most of the world, the Aran Islands are famous for their warm, hand-knitted sweaters. But for a group of artists, writers, historians, and filmmakers, the islands are best loved for their folklore. Robert Flaherty's 1934 film Man of Erin brought the lives and traditions of these people to a worldwide audience, and not much has changed since then. Places and people don't change in Inishmore. Farmers still work their fields the old-fashioned way. They rake them by hand. Generations of the same families live in modest thatched-roof cottages surrounding the little village. The oldest church in the world can be found in Inishmore. It lies along a path that leads to the pre-Christian remains of the once great fort Doningus. It's a long climb to the old fort, and even the most stout-hearted take a moment for rest and refreshment, but the trek is well worth the effort. Perched on the top is 6,000-year-old stone Fort Doningus. Further up the coastline are the rock fields of the Burren and the historical districts of Coole Park, Kinvara, and Galway. In North Clare, there's a signpost that points the way to the Burren Display Centre in Kilfenora. Here you can learn about the strangest landscape in Ireland, the Burren. Receding from the cliffs of Moher is a plateau of more than 100 square miles. This is the rocky land of massive limestone at places some 1,000 yards thick. The Burren. Here are the ruins of medieval churches. But the Burren's rich history stretches further back to the times of the dolmens, monuments of the ancient Celts who inhabited this land 2,500 years before the time of Christ. General Ludlow, who led Cromwell's forces in 1651, dismissed the Burren in this way. There is not enough water to drown a man, nor wood enough to hang him, nor earth enough to bury him, so what good is this God-forsaken place? Although at first glance it may appear empty, the Burren is alive with flora. Its climate is so unique that alpine plants grow side by side with Mediterranean varieties. This makes it a most interesting place for hiking or a leisurely sunset stroll. The Burren's beauty is at one time subtle and splendid. Coole Park was the home of Ireland's best-known patroness of the arts, Lady Augustus Gregory. Sadly, nothing is left of her home, which served as a sort of artist's colony during her life. But the wooded park, the bird sanctuary, and gardens are as beautiful as ever. Looking at these worn pathways, you can easily imagine the literary greats who walked, laughed, and intellectualized here in this serene environment. The most famous living thing in the garden is Lady Gregory's autograph tree. It is a giant copper beech on whose trunk the leaders of the Irish Cultural Revolution, James Joyce, George Bernard Shaw, Sean O'Casey, George Russell, and William Butler Yeats himself, left their initials as a sort of living guest book for their friend and mentor, Lady Augustus Gregory. In her memoirs, Lady Gregory wrote, "Can there be anything in this life more wonderful than sharing the beauty of nature with those you love the most? I love my dear friends, and I love my autograph tree." Lady Augustus Gregory. Nearby, W.B. Yeats spent some of the happiest and most prolific years of his life at Thor Ballylee. In 1917, Yeats bought this old Norman tower, also known as Ballylee Castle, for the grand sum of £35. It became his symbol and his monument, as well as where he lived with his small family. And he wrote some of his greatest poetry here at Thor Ballylee. These are the Griffins, a 20th century Irish family as Irish can be. The Griffins own and operate the Old Plaid Shawl Pub in Kinvara, County Galway. The children take pride in helping their parents, John and Denise, make every patron really feel at home in the pub, and they do a booming business at the Old Plaid Shawl. Denise serves lunches at the Old Plaid Shawl, which she prepares in her small country kitchen. But today, the first order of business is to fix the lads a hearty lunch. They'll need their strength today because they're going on an archaeological architectural tour of the area with Jeff, the local Kinvara historian. Here, just a short distance from the Old Plaid Shawl, castles and antiquities dating back to the 11th century can be explored. Jeff begins the day's tour at Tullyra Castle.
This is Tullyra Castle, the home for many centuries of the Martin family. They once owned Dungura Castle. Edward Martin was a friend of Lady Gregory and W.B. Yeats. Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah.
They were two of Ireland's most famous writers. The modern part of the house, this Gothic-type mansion here, was added on during Martin's time, but he preferred living in the old tower next to it.
Tullyra Castle was built during the era of the Big House, imposing mansions, extensive gardens, enormous estates. Jeff took the boys on an excursion of the estate, which still belongs to the heirs of the Martin family. The mansion's private chapel is bathed in colorful light from rare stained glass imported from London. Surrounded by a walled enclosure, nearby Dungarre Castle dates back to the 16th century. It too was owned by the Martin family until 1924. O'Shaughnessy Chapel was the burial place of the powerful O'Shaughnessy family. The fine altar tomb is marked by the family's coat of arms, below the sculptured crucifix. Many of Ireland's castles get facelifts every few hundred years or so, whether they need them or not, and Jeff showed the boys how it's done. Using as much of the original stone as possible, workers build around new rafters. And when the work is finished, it's impossible to tell the castle had ever been touched by modern carpenters. Galway City, largest city of the West, is a prosperous port. The central gathering place in town is Ayers Square. Here you'll find the John F. Kennedy Memorial Park, created to commemorate a 1963 visit by the president. At the center of Galway, narrow winding streets outline early city walls. One of the walls displays the crests of the founding Galway tribes. The most prominent crest belongs to the Lynch family. One of the main tourist attractions is Lynch's Window. In 1493, Walter Lynch's son murdered a guest in his father's home. His father, who was mayor of Galway, sentenced his son to be hanged. When the hangman refused, the mayor hanged his own son. This is where the term lynching originated. Lynch's castle is now a bank on the main street. The Church of St. Nicholas is the largest parish church of the medieval period of Ireland. This is where Christopher Columbus prayed before setting off for the New World, in this very chapel of St. Nicholas in Galway. Centuries ago, Galway developed important trading links with Spain. The Spanish influence is still visible throughout the city. All that remains of the elaborate wall that surrounded Galway in the 15th century is the Spanish Arch. Just across the river is the Claddagh area, site of the original Claddagh fishing village that stood on this site until 1936. And beyond, romanticized in poem and song, here is Galway Bay. It's difficult for tourists to leave Galway without buying a very special souvenir, a Claddagh ring. Now, there are two tales of its origin. In the first, a princess decided to drown herself in the river after the unhappy end of a love affair. Just as she was about to plunge into the cold, dark water, a beautiful white dove flew over and dropped a ring into her lap. She accepted this gesture as a sign of peace and friendship, and she lived happily ever after. The second version is not nearly as colorful, but is probably more accurate. The Joyce family, one of the original 14 tribes of Galway, had a son named James. Now, in those days, the Spanish imported and exported goods to and from the Claddagh. James went on a trip with the traders to Spain. His ship was attacked by pirates, and he was taken to Africa as a prisoner. In Africa, he learned the art of goldsmithing. After 20 years, he was given his freedom. He returned to Galway with an idea for a ring, which he fashioned with a heart and two hands clasped together, symbolizing love, peace, and friendship. The Claddagh fishermen thought so much of James' ring, they used his design for their wedding rings. Today, the Claddagh ring is made exactly the way that James first created it in this very room. Popular with visitors and locals alike, the Claddagh ring is still worn as both friendship and wedding rings. the Claddagh ring is the perfect, totally Irish gift. Traveling north, the counties of Galway, Sligo, and Mayo capture the rugged textures and charm of northwestern Ireland. On the outskirts of Galway, the signs suddenly read only in Irish. This is the beginning of the Connemara, one of the most beautiful regions of Ireland and one of the most barren. It is not unusual to share the road with any number of Connemara inhabitants. Not much traffic to interfere with this tennis match. There's no television here, no movie theaters, not much radio, but the children seem to amuse themselves quite well, and as their mother quickly pointed out to me, they don't miss what they've never had, so don't you be telling them too much. Here are the famous Connemara ponies grazing by the side of the road. The Egan brothers work the land which has been in their family since the 14th century. Tons of rock had to be cleared before anything could be planted here, and judging from the number of stone walls in the area, I'd say that alone took a couple of centuries. In other areas of the Connemara, you see fields of peat, known as the bogs. Peat is still the only fuel used to heat many homes here, has a distinct aroma that you never forget. Many of the cottages still have the thatched roofs that are so typical of this part of Ireland. Another kind of dwelling dominates the landscape nearby. Peaceful Ballynahinch Castle, where guests interested in sport fishing can spend a weekend to remember. The rivers and streams in the surrounding area teem with fighting hungry trout, steelhead, and salmon. In the village of Cong is the Quiet Man Pub. This spectacular setting is where the John Wayne movie, The Quiet Man, was filmed. To many visitors, the highlight of their Irish vacation is staying in the magnificent 13th century Ashford Castle, with its challenging golf courses and perfectly kept grounds. Rooms here are very expensive, but where else in the world will you be treated like the royalty that the Ashford Castle was built to accommodate? Mass has been held regularly at Ballintubber Abbey for over 770 years without interruption. It was completely restored in 1966. On the 21st of August, 1879, several local people claimed to have seen an apparition of three figures at the Church of St. John the Baptist in Knock, the central figure being the Virgin Mary. The local bishop convened a commission of inquiry which accepted the apparition was genuine. Since that time, Knock has been recognized as a Marian shrine. Pilgrims come from all over the world to pray at the site of the original wall where the miracle occurred. A huge church capable of holding 20,000 worshipers was dedicated in 1976. Thousands of pilgrims parade from the new cathedral to the original scene of the miracle, the little church of St. John the Baptist.
That the devil was flying overhead with a large stone in his mouth when he suddenly spotted St. Patrick about to found a new church. So shocked was the devil at his archenemy's success that he spit the rock out of his mouth. Satan's bitter mouthful is the enormous limestone block, nearly 200 feet high, which forms the base of this medieval complex. For more than 1,000 years, the Rock of Cashel was a symbol of power for the Irish and English kings and clergy who ruled over the region from this dominant site. Here, St. Patrick converted a local Celtic king. The story goes that during the conversion ceremony, the saint accidentally stabbed the Celtic king in the foot with his sharp staff. The Stoic king, thinking pain endurance was just another part of the Catholic initiation rite, didn't say a word and suffered in silence. Even the nearby meadows of the Rock have legendary significance. It is here, so claims the famous myth, that St. Patrick picked a shamrock to explain the doctrine of the Trinity. God, Christ, and the Holy Ghost as the three beings on one stem. Ever since, the shamrock has been a symbol of Ireland. Ireland's rich pasture land is fine grazing for sheep. They produce enormous quantities of that famous Irish wool. Irish sweaters made from unbleached wool are extremely durable and have protected the Irish people from their country's harsh climate for centuries. There are many different styles of weave. Each style of weave once represented a different family. Drowned sailors fished out of the ocean could be identified simply by the design of their wool sweaters. Heading northwest from Limerick is County Galway, one of the largest counties in Ireland. Bilingual road signs in Gaelic and English greet visitors as they enter the city of Galway. Galway is one of the most important centers for Gaelic, the ancient language of the Celts. Most people in Galway communicate using English, but Gaelic is considered the native language here. Gaelic, however, is spoken far beyond the city limits of Galway. The entire Republic of Ireland is officially bilingual, and Gaelic is required in both primary and secondary schools. It's also one of the official languages of the European Union. Here in Galway and throughout the whole country, Gaelic also lives on through the traditional music and songs of Ireland. Gaelic ballads are often accompanied by a fiddle and wooden pipes. Galway is famous for its thriving music scene, especially for its summer music festivals, which attract people from all over the world. Most visitors are drawn to Galway for its artistic atmosphere. But between the music and the reveling, the city also abounds with historical sites. The 14th century Protestant Church of St. Nicholas of Myra is Galway's most important monument. It's also the largest medieval parish church in Ireland, still in use today. Just a block south from the church is Lynch's Castle, one of Ireland's grandest medieval town palaces. The prominent Lynch family inhabited this 14th century castle for several centuries with great political influence. For almost 200 years in a row, 80 different Lynch family members held the position of mayor of Galway. The unfortunate James Lynch was one of the 80. During his mayoral term, the morally upright James Lynch condemned his own son to death for the slaying of a Spanish visitor. The young man was so popular that nobody in town would take on the job of hangman, so James Lynch performed the tragic execution himself. Ireland's cities are never far from scenic landscapes. Just south of Galway City is the Connemara region, a stunning patchwork of bogs and wilderness. The Connemara mountains and valleys offer tremendous hiking, and on a sunny day, the region's myriad of small lakes shimmer invitingly under the blue sky. If it's solitude you're after, this is the place to find it. For all its beauty, the Connemara region remains surprisingly undeveloped and is still a wondrous place of untouched nature. But some of Ireland's wildest scenery lies 30 miles off the mainland, on the wind-whipped Aran Islands. The same stretch of limestone of the Burren region surfaces here to form 3 islands. Ferry service to the islands runs once or twice a day from Galway and other cities on the mainland. Inishmore is the biggest of the 3 islands and the most populated. Local tradition and folklore have tenaciously endured, cut off from some of the sweeping changes on the mainland. Here on the island, the universal language of choice is Gaelic.
more so even than in Galway on the coast. On Inishmore, tourism is the main moneymaker, but fishing and farming remain important local industries. The stoniness of the island's soil has for centuries made it difficult to cultivate. But resourceful farmers learned to cover the ground with sand and seaweed, which eventually transformed the land into fertile fields. The island fishermen are equally resilient. They brave ocean waves on light wood-frame boats called currachs. The boat's tar canvas coverings were once made from animal hide. The spirit of Celtic tribes resounds strongly throughout this island, which is covered with pre-Christian remains. It's thought that the first people may have set foot on the islands as early as 700 BC. Dún Aengus is a massive semicircular fort perched on the edge of cliffs plunging 300 feet down into the Atlantic. The precise date of its construction is still unknown, but archaeologists believe it's from the 5th century. The Chevaux de Frise, a forest of jagged rocks outside one wall of the fort, was planted to slow down would-be attackers. With its stone facade bravely facing the wild and open Atlantic Ocean, Dún Aengus is like the country of Ireland itself, that has stoically confronted the mighty waves of foreign invaders who landed on the island and never left. Each new stream of conquerors, from the Celts to the English, has richly contributed to the core of the rugged Irish character. The wild and invigorating landscape of Ireland's west coast resounds with the language, music, and culture of the Irish people of past and present. Today, the only foreign invaders are travelers seeking a taste of this unique country. But they too will immediately feel the mythic power of Ireland that has beckoned to people for thousands of years.
For 30 years, Geraldo Rivera's covered the world, but never like this.
Sailing around the world has been my goal since I was old enough to have a dream. Now we're 20 countries, 25,000 miles from home. We've had a wild, sometimes frightening, exhilarating passage. Being boarded by the Egyptian Navy, being chased by Somali pirates.
High seas, high adventure. Geraldo Rivera. Join us for a 2-hour special. Sail to the Century, Sunday night at 8 on the Travel Channel.
First, I'm gonna go to my club and you can go to yours. And when I'm done playing, I'll call you and we can swim in Mickey's pool. Oh, are you the cruise director? Now, I have some plans later, so you'll be on your own. And do you mind having dinner alone tonight? After that, we can all see the show together.
On a magical Disney Cruise Line vacation, you're the director of your dreams.
Hey, aren't you glad I thought of this?
Call and discover uncharted magic.
Thanks, Tim. It's Tom. Tom, when you're as busy as I am, you tend to forget things. When it comes to office supplies, you gotta be on the ball. That's why I like Staples.com. They send me emails reminding me when to stock up on the supplies I need to keep my office humming. It makes things easy. My days of forgetting are behind me.
Want to give them 10 more minutes?
Order anything, anytime, anywhere with overnight delivery. Staples.com. Hey, you don't have to run out.
For those of you who prefer the horn section, listen. Tennessee. Sounds good to me. Call 1-800-GO-TO-TENN. There's a place where even sharing a cab sounds romantic. Tennessee. Sounds good to me. Call 1-800-GO-TO-TENN.
When you were 6, it was roller skates. When you were 10, it was a bike. When you were 16, it was a car. exactly did this happen?
Now it's easy to buy e-business tools direct from IBM at IBM.com or 888-SHOP-IBM. Like a ThinkPad with an Intel Celeron or Intel Pentium 3 processor. Call today and get free same-day shipping on select ThinkPads.
Over 1 million stomachs have gotten tighter with 8-minute abs. And to celebrate our success, we created 8-minute 2000 total body workout.
I went from this flabby spare tire to a washboard stomach. Thanks, 8-minute abs.
We've combined 8-minute abs, arms, legs, and 8-minute buns in a super intense 8-minute workout for only $19.95. Flatten those abs, shape those buns, and tone your arms and legs. Call now and we'll include a free $5 rebate. That's right, you get total body workout for only $14.95 with rebate. Call 1-800-257-5700.
To be a mentor, you don't have to have all the answers.
Interesting. You hungry?
Yeah.
You just have to be yourself, which, by the way, is pretty good. Do good. Mentor a child. Call 1-877-BE-A-MENTOR.
Nation, Indonesia, journey, seek out prehistoric Komodo dragon, favorite meal, wild pig, deer, and you. Join the quest, Trailblazers, Saturday at 9 on the Travel Channel.
Spectacular natural beauty fuses with turbulent history in the northern country of Scotland, where castle ruins stand at the foot of heather-covered hills, once the site of legendary battles for independence, and where starkly remote areas of untamed wilderness hide lochs deep with mystery and folklore. The drama of Scotland's landscape speaks of a brutal past laden with heroism, when ancient Scottish clans and proudly worn tartan passionately fought British troops for the freedom of their country. Armed with nothing more than primitive weapons and military know-how, these ancient warriors began the bold push for Scottish independence that still continues on today. Spirited determination resounds throughout this remarkable country, where the astonishing diversity of its cultured cities and rugged highlands will enchant everyone. Scotland is part of Great Britain. It lies north of England, surrounded by narrow inlets of the Northern Sea called firths on its east coast and the Irish Sea to the west. Scotland splits up into 3 different regions: the central lowlands, the southern uplands, and the infamous highlands in the north. The small size of the country will allow visitors to get a little taste of it all, starting with Scotland's great capital city of Edinburgh. Enchanting and complex, Edinburgh bravely stands on a series of extinct volcanoes, overlooking the gentle shoreline of the Firth of Forth in the north. It's been called the fairest city in Europe, where fairy tale castles and aristocratic palaces are symbols of Scotland's proud heritage. Scottish independence from England rings stronger than ever today. In 1997, Scotland voted to establish its own legislature. It will be the first since 1707. From its elevated perch, Edinburgh has always had a good view of the country down below, starting in the 11th century when the city was just a strategic Scottish fort, which marked the country's then southernmost border. Edinburgh's historical monuments and museums line the famous Royal Mile through the city center. Most striking is Holyrood, Edinburgh's royal quarter with its charming palace and scenic park. According to legend, the 12th century Scottish king, David I, was one day thrown from his horse by a stag. The king grabbed hold of the stag's antlers, which suddenly transformed into a crucifix. He founded an abbey on the site of his religious experience, calling it Holyrood, which means Holy Cross. A full-blown palace was built next to the abbey much later on. Surrounding Edinburgh's metropolitan centre is the glorious, empty wilderness of Scotland's northern regions. The Grampian Mountains lie north of Edinburgh, just on the edge of the resplendent Highlands. The Grampians form the highest mountain range in Scotland. Visitors here can step back into the Scottish past of this history-rich area, while reveling in the gorgeous scenery of charming wood glens and rolling green hills. Celtic tribes first set foot in this region from the European mainland in 400 BC. These ancient people somehow managed to wrest a living from the harsh land when not in the middle of one tribal war or another. Celtic warriors traditionally painted their bodies before going into battle. So when the Romans arrived in Britain in 55 BC, they called the Celts Picti, or Picts, meaning painted people. Pict burial tombs and monuments are scattered all over the northern regions of Scotland. Here in the surrounding area of the Grampian Mountains is the town of Aberlemno, which houses an exquisite collection of open-air Pictish stones in its churchyard. One spectacular 8th century cross slab displays a Celtic cross on one side and a detailed Pictish battle scene on the other. It's so peaceful here today that it's hard to imagine the battle cries of warring tribes filling the thick forests and open plains of Scotland for centuries. But it was England, Scotland's powerful neighbor to the south, that would soon pose the biggest threat to the independent spirit of these early Scots.
Tonight's programming is brought to you by Charles Schwab, where you'll find the people, technology, and support to help make you a smarter investor. Visit us at www.schwab.com.
Net 1, Pearl 2.
Bingo! Mr. Barkley wins again!
These days, it's never too early to think about retirement. Maybe that's why so many people go to schwab.com. In a few steps, you can open a Roth, a traditional IRA, or a rollover, invest in a range of funds, and plan for the future. Because retirement,
You got the upper.
comes sooner than you think.
When's the last time you tangoed till dawn, took a trek on a glacier, or hung out with gauchos? If the answer is never, then start practicing your Spanish. Hola! We're taking you to Argentina. The journey begins with the nightlife in Buenos Aires and ends with penguins in Patagonia. You'll go from the top of the Andes to the Tropic of Capricorn to practically the bottom of the world. All in one country, all in one night. Argentina Night, Monday from 8 to 11, only on the Travel Channel.
This is sacred ground. This ranch has been in the Stevens family for 75 years. I know. I've helped 3 generations hold on to it.
Tom Rose, AXA Advisors.
The only way to keep a business successful and in the family is with smart planning.
AXA Advisors, part of a global company helping 40 million people.
It's tough out here. The weather, beef prices, and there's an uncle named Sam who always gets his cut.
AXA Advisors, building futures.
As you can see, we can access areas of the brain through brain probe stimulation. For example, by probing the basal ganglia, we can activate the brain's sense of pleasure. And when we probe the corpus callosum, we stimulate the sense of happiness. Tranquility. Exhilaration.
For free Montana vacation information, call 1-800-919-8811.
And finally, disappointment.
Put yourself in Montana.
Put your wheels in motion at the all-new New Orleans Auto Show, a casual, non-selling environment. See the 2001 Saturn SC2, Volkswagen Turbo Jetta, Infiniti QX4, and the 2001 Aurora. March 30th to April 1st at the Superdome. Buy one, get one free coupons at Blockbuster Video and Lakeside Shopping Center retailers.
Over 1 million stomachs have gotten tighter with 8-minute abs. And to celebrate our success, we created 8-minute 2000 total body workout.
I went from this flabby spare tire to a washboard stomach. Thanks, 8-minute abs.
We've combined 8-minute abs, arms, legs, and 8-minute buns in a super intense 8-minute workout for only $19.95. Flatten those abs, shape those buns, and tone your arms and legs. Call now and we'll include a free $5 rebate. That's right, you get total body workout for only $14.95 with rebate. Call 1-800-257-5700.
Scotland's history with England is a long and bloody one. The Middle Ages marked the beginning of centuries of violent conflict between the neighboring countries, as the British continuously invaded Scottish territory, subjecting the Scots to the imperious rule of the British Crown. The Scots' ongoing fight for independence took a real turn inside the sandstone walls of the Abbey of Arbroath, located in a small coastal town at the bottom of Scotland's northeast coast. Here, in 1320, Scottish King Robert the Bruce proudly defied the English crown by declaring Scotland an independent country in a document called the Arbroath Declaration. It was one of the most significant events in Scottish history. Red sandstone ruins are all that remain of this historical monument. The Catholic abbey was dissolved by the English Protestants in the 16th century. It sadly became little more than a source of red sandstone to build local houses. The fall of the abbey was a bad omen for Scotland. About a century later, in 1650, England's military ruler Oliver Cromwell invaded Scotland and forced the Scottish king into exile. Perhaps to emphasize their sense of independence, the Scots built their monarchs magnificent castles. The most famous is Glamis Castle, near the Abbey of Arbroath. The castle has legendary significance, mainly thanks to Shakespeare, who chose Glamis Castle as the setting for Macbeth, the tragic tale of a Scottish king's murderous rise to power. Shakespeare was inspired by the real-life story of Macbeth of Murray, who in the year 1040 killed the heir to the Scottish throne so that he could crown himself king. Since the dark days of Macbeth, the castle has undergone many transformations by a long line of less homicidal royal residents. The tour of the castle begins upstairs in the Victorian dining room, where a silver ship centerpiece sits on the table, a gift to the 13th Earl of Glamis from the castle estate workers. In the lower hall of the original tower is the 15th century burial vault. The walls are 12 feet thick and enclose a haunted lost room where it's said the Lord of Glamis was locked away after he dared to play cards with the devil on a Sunday. In the castle's family chapel are frescoes by 17th century painter Jacob de Witt. His unusual depiction of Christ wearing a hat and St. Peter with eyeglasses caused quite a stir at the time and still raises a few eyebrows. It's worth spending a few hours on the breathtaking grounds of Glamis, exploring the surrounding woodland or strolling through the well-tended formal gardens, gorgeously planned and designed in 1910. Plants and flowers thrive in this northern climate, well irrigated by the water that flows all over Scotland, not just around its serrated coastlines, but through the interior as well. Myriads of gushing rivers crisscross the wilderness, and lakes, called lochs, dot the entire country. After trekking and fishing around the Grampian Mountains, many travelers head northeast toward the coastal city of Aberdeen, stopping by majestic sites of legend and history, such as Dunnottar Castle along the way. The ruins of Dunnottar Castle stand imposingly on a sheer cliff, jutting out into the sea. This 9th century fortress has a bloody past, worthy of its grand location. Here in the year 1297, Scottish freedom fighter William Wallace, made famous by the movie Braveheart, burnt alive a British garrison that was holding down the castle. Less gruesome is the popular tale which has it that during Oliver Cromwell's invasion of Scotland, the wife of a Dunnottar garrison commander moved the Scottish royal crown jewels to safety. As Cromwell's troops prepared to storm the castle, the brave woman escaped with the crown and scepter. Scotland's most precious symbols of the state were then hidden away in the town church for 9 years. The invigorating spray of waves crashing against the coastal cliffs of Dunnottar give way to more pastoral landscapes farther north, in the region of Aberdeenshire. Amid the green patchwork of open countryside lies Aberdeen on the coast, the 3rd largest city in Scotland. With its landscape of granite buildings and its tough reputation, Aberdeen is known as the Granite City. But it's really not as hard and cold as its nickname implies. A good place to start a tour of Aberdeen is in the city center of Merkin Cross, an elegant town square. Once a noisy and lively market where farmers and fishmongers came to hawk their wares. On the other side of town is the 15th century Cathedral of St. Machar, the city's first large-scale granite construction. The early architects of Aberdeen had clearly found their building material of choice, and the granite tradition continued on through the centuries. In direct contrast to the cold granite are the city's cheerful parks and flower gardens. In the countryside west of Aberdeen stands majestic Castle Cogarth. It's hard to believe that a dense forest once covered this whole area, keeping the castle well hidden. Protected by the remoteness of the site, 16th century Scottish clans trained and armed their troops for battle with the British.
You know it's the world's most dangerous Sunday when your friends are terrorists, warlords, and mercenaries. When your itinerary includes Afghanistan, Algeria, and Uganda. You know it's world's most dangerous Sunday when your souvenir is ticking. Adventurer Robert Young Pelton takes you to the world's most dangerous places. World's Most Dangerous Sunday, April 9th at 9 on the Travel Channel.
Scotland. Explore the past. Glimpse the future. For your free Scotland vacation planner, call 1-800-969-SCOT.
Kilago, alone on Kilago, how empty it seems with only my dreams.
Introducing the 3.2 CL from Acura.
Allergies knocking you flat? Try non-drowsy Allegra. Only Allegra has fexofenadine.
for people 12 and over. Ask your doctor or pharmacist for more information. Side effects are low and may include drowsiness, cold or flu, nausea, or menstrual pain. Allegra, so you can enjoy the world around you.
You gotta stop right there. Good girl.
Today, I'm giving my daughter her first driving lesson. I'm Howard Simpson, auto insurance expert for Liberty Mutual. Teenagers are more likely to have an accident than anyone else. That's why I volunteer to teach kids road safety long before they get their license.
Let's go, let's go.
Whether it's teaching kids in high school or training professionals, we do whatever it takes to make roads safer.
At Liberty Mutual, we help you live a safer, more secure life. It's insurance in action.
You're never too old to learn.
Combat Rangers. They're rough, they're tough, they're battle-tested. They're lean, mean fighting machines. When there's a battle to be won, Combat Rangers get the job done. Making backyards safe for democracy.
Now, tell me why they're wearing dresses.
The commander uniforms didn't arrive from China.
That's because you picked the wrong shipping company.
Next time, use the only U.S. Express shipper with direct routes from China, FedEx. Be absolutely sure.
Matching night vision tiara sold separately.
Are you looking for adventure? I'm J.D. Roth, host of Animal Planet Zoo Venture, the wildest game show on TV. Animal Planet's the cable channel with all kinds of wildly entertaining shows. And now your local cable company's bringing the excitement of the TV show right to your town. It's adrenaline-pumping, sloppy games with tons of wild animals. And it's coming to you.
3 shows daily, April 1st and 2nd, presented by Cox Cable and Audubon Zoo. Free and current cable bill for $1 off kids and $2 off adult admission for up to 4 people. Call 581-4629 for details.
Sir, what's wrong? I don't know. I feel like a number, Stilton. Sir, you are a number. Number 1. A king who gets to watch movies. Stilton, I love you.
Order the best movies from your home. Pay-per-view is now in demand.
You rule.
Feel like a king with Cox in demand.
Hogarth, the journey north along the coast leads to more historical sites, like Fort George and down into the heart of Scotland's Highlands. The wild Scottish Highlands spread out over 2/3 of northern Scotland. Untamed and isolated, the Highlands are where visitors will find Scotland's most spectacular scenery, which still seems to echo with sounds of the more violent battles with England. Overlooking the salty waters of Murray Firth along the coast stands Fort George, another remnant of Scotland's blood-stained history. British invaders who built the structure would be proud to hear that military historians call it the finest fortification in all of Europe. For the Scots, it's a grim reminder of their agonizing loss following the bloody Jacobite uprising of 1745, a failed Scottish attempt to restore their king. Severely outnumbered clansmen clashed with the British forces near the Fort George area. The slaughter left 1,200 clansmen dead. To block any more Scottish uprisings, the victorious British immediately put up Fort George, its guns and cannons aimed at the heart of the Highlands. But more difficult to swallow for the Scots was the heart-wrenching loss of their identity. After the Jacobite uprising, the British outlawed the wearing of ancient clan tartan garments and the playing of their beloved bagpipes. The woeful sounds of the Scottish bagpipe would not ring through the Highlands for another 40 years, when Scotland would temporarily shake off the iron fist of Britain. The great Scottish poet Robert Burns once wrote, "Freedom and whiskey are a common cause." And there's no doubt that the Scots are as passionate about their freedom as they are about their whiskey. Scotch whiskey. It's one of the most famous spirits in the world and Scotland's biggest export. Through the valley of the River Spey, just on the eastern edge of the Highlands, winds a 70-mile road called the Whiskey Trail, famous for its whiskey distilleries. Each distillery along the trail offers a guided tour and a tasting to round it off. The oldest distillery in Scotland is Strathisla, founded in 1786. It's worth a visit just to admire its beautiful Highland location along the Stratha River. The unique flavor of Scottish whiskies comes from centuries-old distilling techniques. At Glenlivet, whiskey makers still follow these ancient methods. Travelers may need a wee dram of whiskey before heading deeper into the Highlands to Castle Urquhart on the shores of Loch Ness, home to the legendary monster. Most photographs supposedly showing the monster were taken from the grounds of the castle, built in 1509 as a strategic base to guard this region of the Highlands. Visitors to Castle Urquhart tend to focus more on the murky depths of Loch Ness, where lurks the monster, affectionately known as Nessie. Real or imaginary, Nessie is one of the biggest tourist attractions, and according to records, has been spotted 3,000 times in the last 50 years. The most famous sightings, as well as sensational forgeries, are on display at the official Loch Ness Monster Exhibition Center. Much to the dismay of monster enthusiasts, the most convincing photo of Nessie has been exposed as a fake. Nessie has been around for centuries. The earliest mention of the beast appears in a 7th century biography of St. Columba. While on his way to convert the pagans of this highland area, the saint scared off the beast with a sign of the cross. Much later, in 1961, 30 people out on a boat reported seeing 2 humps break the surface just before their craft exploded and sank. If Nessie does exist, what is she? Theories run the whole range, from lone survivor of prehistoric times to alien creature traveling through space. Nessie or not, there's no denying that Loch Ness is a magnificent lake, surrounded by one of the most spectacular views of heather-clad mountains rising up from the wooded shoreline. So if whiskey's not on hand to chase the cold away, there's plenty of warm Scottish wool to wear in layers. Some 50 million wool-producing sheep graze the pastures of Scotland. Wool products, both manufactured and handmade, are an important part of Scotland's economy. All over Scotland are sold scarves, tweed jackets, and cashmere sweaters made from the durable wool of those Scottish sheep, all at extremely affordable prices. Tartan or plaid? It's big business in Scotland. The brightly colored square patterns were once used to distinguish different clans. The traditional Scottish kilt is made from plaid, but the original plaid garment worn by ancient Scots was a fine, almost waterproof cloth spun by hand from the wool of Highland sheep and then dyed with concoctions made from local plants. It was worn by Highlanders as a huge single piece of cloth, draped over the upper body like an enormous toga. The colors of this ancient material were much softer and more muted than those of today, providing excellent camouflage during Highland battles. Today, plaid kilts are worn by Scottish men on special occasions, such as the annual Great Highland Games, held all over Scotland from May through September. The games originated in the 14th century as a way to recruit the strongest men for the clan chiefs. Different events have names like tossing the caber, putting the stone, and tossing the weight over the bar. All require tremendous strength and skill. The most spectacular event is tossing the caber, when athletes must run carrying an entire tree trunk at least 6 yards long, which they attempt to heave so that it falls over and hits the ground at a straight angle. The unusual sport was inspired by woodcutters hurling freshly chopped down trunks into the middle of the river so they could float downstream to the sawmills. The British suppressed the games in 1745 after crushing the infamous Jacobite rebellion. but they were popularized once again in the mid-1800s. And so the Highland Games became a colorful symbol for the proud character of the Scottish people. No visitor here will deny that the Scots are as determined as the competitors of these games and as wild and free as the rugged highlands that surround them. From the fierce clan warriors to the caber-tossing athletes of the Highland Games today, the Scots have remained stubbornly attached to their independence, despite centuries of conflict. And Scotland's independence from England rings stronger than ever today. There's a prevalent sense of optimism throughout the country, so that now, more than ever, the Scots are eager to show off their wondrous land of spectacular, mythical beauty.
I hope you've enjoyed our visit to Scotland and the Emerald Isle. Ireland, and in particular Dublin, has become one of Europe's trendiest destinations. But at heart, the Irish are a country sort, and they won't fault you for saying so. Enjoy your trip. I'm Tom Wallace.
I, Ken Taylor for the Travel Channel. Ladies, how would you like to be queen for a day? Literally. Well, you can thanks to a new Phoenix company. They'll arrange luxury...
Below ground level, and one of the The development of Crag Cave represents one of the most exciting and interesting cultural happenings in the area for many years. It is an ancient fossil cave, reckoned to be over 1 million years old. 60 feet below ground level, and one of the longest limestone cave systems in Ireland. Since its discovery in 1983, over 2 miles have been explored and surveyed. The temperature is a constant 10 degrees, and the gentle trickle of water is the only sound to be heard apart from the footsteps of the visitor and the murmur of the professional guides conducting their parties through the complex, pointing out stalactites and stalagmites that have been growing for hundreds of thousands of years.
So very, very gradually these dripstone formations start to grow. Now the ones growing down are stalactites, and the ones growing up are stalagmites. Now we don't know how old this stalactite is.
The cave was once filled with water, a gushing river which eroded the limestone rock into a maze of intricately carved tunnels and chambers. In time, this water found new routes to leave deposits of river gravel and sediment. Then small drips of water into the cave left crystals, which formed the many speleotherms, which are now such an outstanding part of the cave's beauty. Growing at a rate of just a few centimeters every 1,000 years, some of the stalactites and stalagmites in Crag are now 3 meters long. The magical names of Tolkien and the great love story of Irish mythology, The Pursuit of Diarmid and Gráinne, are woven into the story of Crag. The latter saga being part of the folklore of this area of North Kerry and the Slieve Luachra Hills. Development at Crag includes a fine visitor centre in tastefully restored stone buildings which house a craft shop and restaurant. Southwest of Castle Island, and but 12 miles from Killarney, is the town of Killorglin. It is in the geographical centre of Kerry and situated on the River Lorne, having grown up around Castle Conway, a 13th century Fitzgerald stronghold. But its main claim to fame is the annual Puck Fair, where on Gathering Day, the first of the fair, a puck or male wild goat is captured on the surrounding mountains and hoisted onto a scaffolding high above the town to preside over 3 days and nights of merrymaking. Then, on Scattering Day, a much depressed animal is returned to his natural habitat. It is the oldest annual fair in existence, certainly in Ireland. It is officially a horse, cattle and sheep fair, but none like it can be seen the length and breadth of the land. Shops and bars are open late into the night, and there is more trade in stout, porter and whiskey than in livestock, right into the early hours. There are several versions of the origin of Puck Fair. One is that a wild goat ran into the town to warn of the coming of Oliver Cromwell and his Roundheads. The people subsequently instituted an annual festival in recognition of this great service. Another is that in Norman times it was the practice in many parts of Europe to display an animal over a town to indicate that a fair was in progress. But the most popular story is that the goat symbol, traditionally that of fertility and licentiousness, derives its origin from a pagan festival worshipping the Celtic god Lugh, who is commemorated in many parts of Kerry. As one staggers from the round of gaiety that is Puck, travel to nearby Coomclahon, to gaze across Carra Lake and refresh the spirit with one of the finest views in the whole of the Kingdom of Kerry. Centred on a fishing harbour and boat-building yard is Dingle, on the southern shore of the peninsula which bears its name. In medieval times, it was the principal harbour of Kerry, carrying out an extensive wine trade with France. Fishing and tourism are the main sources of income to the townspeople. Indeed, some of the fishermen have forsaken their trade and now spend their time, and make a better living, it is said, by ferrying tourists out into the harbour to visit Fungi, a friendly dolphin who has made Dingle his home. From Slea Head can be seen the Blasket Islands, the distant Skellig Rocks, Dingle Bay, the Evira Peninsula, and the wild Atlantic Ocean. From the road around Mount Eagle, still high above the sea, there is another fine view of the Blasket Islands, the nearest of which is just over a mile out to sea. Now derelict, the Great Blasket was inhabited for 2,000 years. 50 years ago, it was known as the next parish to America. With just over 150 inhabitants, 1,000 sheep, and 30 cows. There was no church or pub or shop. Houses were built from rock and furniture from driftwood. The population dwindled over the years, and in 1953, the government brought the few people remaining to the mainland, where they were resettled. Less than a mile inland lies the cluster of cottages that is Dunquin. There is a guest house and pub there, owned until his death in 1970 by a local gentleman, one Cruger Kavler, who spent most of his life in America. He was in the US Army and was a friend of gangsters, members of the boxing fraternity, and politicians of all persuasions. He was a great friend, too, of Eamon de Valera, Passing through another small village, Ballyferriter, where the people are mainly Irish-speaking, one leaves the main road for a short distance to visit another world-famous monastic site. This is the priceless archaeological gem, Gallerus Oratory. The tiny church is 1,200 years old, the most perfect piece of old Irish building in existence, and the best example of dry rubble masonry in Europe. Such buildings were standard in the Kerry monasteries of long ago, but the unmortared roofs have fallen in elsewhere, except on Skellig Michael, through the great weight of the stone with which they were built. It is well worthwhile now to make one's way back to Dingle, to cross the Connor Pass. The road climbs quite steeply, past Knockmoyle Moor, to the little car park which lies between Slievenay and Ballysitra. The mountain top gives the most wonderful views of Dingle Bay, Tralee Bay, and on a clear day, the far-off mouth of the River Shannon. North again now, to the narrow spit of land which divides Tralee Bay and Brandon Bay, and where the curragh, the traditional light boat of the west of Ireland fishermen, is in popular use. Made of tarred canvas stretched tightly over a wooden frame, it is rowed using long poles as oars. Being so light, the curragh quite literally skims over the waves. Yet it is an extremely stable craft. Here in Kerry, they are known as névogues. Mesolithic man, in 5000 BC, it is said, lived on the sandhill sites of Castle Gregory and fed on shellfish and bear. Nowadays, Buick swan from Siberia hibernates to the same sand dunes for the summer months, although bears are long gone from the menu. Offshore here are the Mahari Islands, or the Seven Hogs. On the largest of this group, Elon Tannig, there was an important early Christian settlement attributed to Saint Senan. Another of the Maharis, Inishtushkat, played a vastly different part in Irish history, for it was here that a German gunrunner, the Ord, carrying a cargo of arms to support the Easter Rising in 1916, was captured by the British. The same night, on the other side of Tralee Bay, Sir Roger Casement landed from a German submarine, was captured, and subsequently hanged in London as a traitor. Tralee is the capital of Kerry. Its fame is worldwide, especially through the annual Festival of Kerry, which is held there each September. The harvest has been won by them, and the All-Ireland Football Championship comes soon, so all Kerry is celebrating. There is wonderful street entertainment, all free, thanks to the sponsorship of Guinness, brewers of Ireland's national beverage.
Just as sure as every April turns to May, so will I love you every step of the way. I'll always love you every step of the way.
Recalling the famous local song, a Rose of Tralee is chosen each year from a host of Kerry descendants from all over the world who have won heats of the competition in the lands whence they came. And another popular event of the festival is the annual fashion show held in the Dome. Just a mile or so outside Tralee, in the village of Blennerville, once a port of call of transatlantic liners embarking emigrants from Kerry on their way to the New World, stands a wonderfully restored windmill. One of only 3 in Ireland, Blennerville Windmill was built in 1800, but closed down in 1880. Then, just over a century later, Tralee Urban District Council took it over and restoration began. Northeast for a few miles now, to discover Listowel, a pleasant, bustling North Kerry town situated on the River Feel. A Gothic-style church dominates the square, and there is another nearby. The Fitzmaurice Lords of Kerry were constantly disloyal to the crown. Their castle in Listowel was besieged in 1600. All but one of the defenders was slaughtered by British forces. 3 weeks before his death, Charles Stuart Parnell made what was to be nearly his last public appearance when he spoke from a window of the local hotel.
That's unbelievable.
The annual 3-day race meeting at Listowel is one of the oldest established in Ireland. Traditionally, coins are thrown to local children from the bridge adjoining the racecourse. A day at the races, or 2 days, or maybe 3, is a great annual holiday for Kerry farming folk, as well as for the serious racegoers. people of Tokyo are justly proud of their 200 miles per hour bullet train, but little do they know that they can thank Listowel for their grand railway. From 1888 to 1924, the first ever monorail train ran from the town to the seaside resort of Ballybunion, a distance of about 10 miles. It was devised by a Spaniard with the French name of Latigue and was named after him. In some ways, it is similar to the infamous West Clare Railway in that so many hilarious stories are told and so many humorous songs sung about it. And of course, no film of Kerry would be complete without the famous footballers of the kingdom. The green and gold Highfielders of Gaelic football have won 30 All-Ireland championships since 1903. And, with Kildare, equalled the record of winning 4 in a row. This was between 1978 and 1981. And the following year were beaten by a single point by Offaly in the last minute of the Croke Park final to deny these young gladiators the chance of a new record of 5 successive All-Ireland wins. The new-look Kerry team are seen here in action against the stalwarts of the Orchard County Armagh in a National League First Division match at Austin Stack Park, Tralee, on a cold December afternoon. This game was one of Kerry's first under the new experimental rules, the most radical since wrestling was abolished in 1886, because the game was too rough. There is a spare football at each goal in order to reduce delay when a ball is sent wide, And the goal kick is taken from the hand rather than from the ground. The sides change ends at each quarter of the match. A line ball may be taken from the hand, and a fouled player has the option of taking the resultant free kick from the hand or from the ground. If another player takes this free, the fouled player must choose how the kick is to be taken. And the young ladies of Kerry are also to the fore in Gaelic football, for they have won the All-Ireland Championship for 8 years in a row. So, it's slán go fóill, for you'll be back to the kingdom of Kerry and its many cultures, its antiquities and its scenic beauty. But one will need to return again and again before fully understanding the wonderful native Kerryman and his habitat. And it is hoped that this little film will serve as a reminder, indeed a memorable souvenir, of the Emerald Isle and its beautiful little southwest corner. Come back soon. We look forward to seeing you again.
Everybody else has gone back, so something good must be going on there.
And something historic as well. Thousands of Ireland's sons and daughters are returning to ride the Celtic Tiger, the country's roaring economy. Shower. The country which for 150 years had only one export, its own people. The country which for centuries had an economy with only one product, failure. Consider this. There are 3.5 million people in the Republic of Ireland and a staggering 70 million people of Irish descent worldwide. But all that is beginning to change. The Celtic Tiger is calling its cubs to come home. It's a scene being played out all over America and other countries with Kellys and O'Connors. These days, the Irish are moving, of all places, to Ireland. Martin and Connie O'Brien are leaving New York after emigrating to America 15 years ago.
Everybody else has gone back, so something good must be going on there.
And something historic as well. Thousands of Ireland's sons and daughters are returning to ride the Celtic Tiger, the country's roaring economy. Paul McBride is back from Seattle, where he went 9 years ago to work for a company called Microsoft.
At the time, I think most of our class, almost all of our class emigrated.
Really?
There was just no option for people.
Do you remember the numbers? Do you remember how many people there were in your class and how many left?
I think out of 40, 37 left.
Wow. McBride, 31 years old, now runs the Irish operation for Lionbridge, a software testing company in a village that was dying. In fact, he first set up shop in a former morgue, then in a pub, before the company's new building opened, smack dab in the center of downtown Ballina.
We run a certification program for Microsoft. We're one of 4 sites worldwide, the others being in Paris, Tokyo, and LA, that can certify software for the Windows 2000.
Paris, Tokyo, LA, and Ballina.
That's right.
Brave new world.
Well, I guess it's impressive.
And it's a high-tech world which is making that legendary green countryside even greener. With cash and with the envy of others. The giants of information technology are here now, lured by Europe's lowest taxes, an incredibly well-educated population, and a workforce 100% of which speaks English. In no time at all, Ireland has driven straight from the agricultural revolution to the information technology revolution. Welcome to Leixlip, County Kildare, the birthplace of Guinness, would you believe? But Guinness was yesterday. Today is Intel, a plant worth $5 billion. This room where microchips are made is 10,000 times more sterile than an operating room. In Ireland today, the quiet man is being replaced by the clean man. Thousands of Irish workers are making the chips that drive Europe's computers. Intel knows a good thing when it sees one. A new building is being added to its plant in Kildare, and the boom is spreading to other counties. Do you remember the sad limerick of Angela's Ashes where jobs were as rare as jewels? Well, look at it today. 4,000 workers are busy building computers for Dell. The race from poverty to prosperity is moving so fast that historians like Tom Garvin are having trouble keeping score. When you walk the streets of Dublin these days, are you still stunned by the amount of money you see?
I have to make a mental effort to remember the Dublin of the 1950s, which was in many ways a third world city. Horses, no motor cars, children in bare feet, dirt everywhere, people living in slums, no television, no bathrooms. A really impoverished European country that really didn't seem to be going anywhere.
The only place the Irish were going was abroad.
We left for economic reasons. We left because there wasn't a lot of opportunity. We didn't leave because we didn't want to live in Ireland. Of course we wanted to live in Ireland.
Conor O'Kelly left in 1983, worked on Wall Street for 7 years. Now he runs a financial services company in Dublin.
I think people are getting a lot of joy out of the success, and we deserve it. You know, and I think we feel, you know, that we deserve it. You know, we've had it bad for a long time.
A very long time. The potato famine of the 19th century killed 1 million people. Millions more left because it was the only way to survive. The economy never recovered, so people just kept on leaving.
It bled the lifeblood from the country.
Father Harry Bowen is a priest in the west of Ireland.
We had a lot of broken hearts. We had a lot of people, a lot of parents who never saw their children again. And there was huge sadness about that type of emigration. In some ways, we became ashamed of a lot of what was Ireland.
But in the last 5 years, shame is out
Ireland! Ireland!
And pride is in. Ireland is now the envy of Europe. Unemployment is down from 20% 15 years ago to 4% today, the lowest in Europe. In fact, Ireland now wants to import 300,000 new workers in the next couple of years. It's never been a better time to be a college graduate in Ireland.
They're so cocky. I mean, they're interviewing you. They're putting their feet up on the desk and saying, you know, what have you got for me? You know, and
does it put you off a bit, that?
No, no, it doesn't. I want them. I need them.
To fill those needs, Ireland is looking to its past to find its future. This is the Jeannie Johnston, a replica of a coffin ship. That's what these vessels were called. The vessels which carried hundreds of thousands of hungry Irish families to the United States during the potato famine 150 years ago. The original Jeannie Johnston made 16 Atlantic crossings, and her namesake is about to sail again. This time carrying not people to America, but a message. Come back to Ireland. Come back to the mother country, now hungry for workers. And the hunger is not just for high-tech workers.
We're looking for nurses, we're looking for construction workers, we're looking for people to work in call centres.
Gregory Craig, who saw 8 of his own brothers and sisters emigrate, is Ireland's chief job recruiter overseas.
We're looking for hotel people, restaurateurs, we're looking for chefs. It's across every sector, every job imaginable.
Who's picking the potatoes? Latvians, imported just for that. You won't find an Irishman in these fields. And the irony doesn't stop there. Where is Ireland looking for construction workers? In England. England, the old colonial master.
I've never thought that I would live long enough to see English workers on Irish building sites rather than Irish workers on English building sites.
I want you to describe to me what you feel when you pass a building site and see English workers working there.
A certain mild satisfaction.
And many of the Irishmen who've lived and worked in England all their lives can't believe it when they see an Irishman like Gregory Craig recruiting workers in London.
We had a situation in London where these two old gentlemen, 65, 66, came up to a show and they said, "We heard you on the radio this morning. We heard you saying there was a show in London offering jobs in Ireland, and we just came along to make sure it was happening because we couldn't believe it." They said, "It's too late for us now. We've spent 40 years here now. It's far too late. But our sons and our daughters, we're going back and telling them to get here tomorrow and consider it as an option." It was quite emotional, quite emotional.
In the emotional spectrum, Ireland's mood is changing quite simply from depression to delight. You can see it in the clubs, you can see it in the cars. And that family car, or even first car, is likely to be a BMW. That is, if you can find one. There's a 6-month waiting list for a BMW in Dublin, and in Ireland, BMWs start at $60,000.
Who are all the people here who are buying BMWs?
Mainly the young generation who have got better jobs now, they're well educated.
What do you call young?
Young would be 24, 25, 26.
Eileen Corrigan could be on a poster for the new Ireland. The youngest of 15 kids, she became at the age of 20 the first woman in the country to sell cars. That was before she got her driver's license. Now she's BMW's leading salesperson, owns 2 homes, and knows what her contemporaries want.
People are after status, but they also after a certain amount of luxury. Leather seats, air conditioning, alloy wheels. They would have been luxuries in the past. They're now becoming necessities. People want them.
Luxuries are becoming necessities in the Ireland of today.
Yes.
And this new attitude has brought social changes deeper than the bogs. Ireland's place of worship on Sunday is no longer the church as much as the shopping mall. The Catholic Church once dominated Ireland like it did no other country. That was just before the good times started rolling.
The church is not there anymore, certainly not in its traditional Irish sense. The numbers of priests and nuns and brothers have shrunk to virtually nothing. You must remember that 50 years ago, something like 1 in 4, 1 in 5 professional people in Ireland were men or women of the cloth.
Is Ireland still a Catholic country? It always was the Catholic country.
In name, yes. But in practice, I think we are going through massive transition, and it could not be defined, I think, as Catholic in that sense anymore.
Ireland is no longer a Catholic country.
I don't think so, no.
Church attendance is less than half what it was a decade ago, and the church's authority has gone down even further. Divorce has been legalized, condoms are now sold over the counter, and guess where Viagra is made? Ireland. But joining the modern world has brought its usual package of problems. More traffic and stress and suicide, and everyone seems to be in a hurry. The Irish in a hurry. The Ireland of the ballads and the bards, so romanticized in the bars of Boston and New York, that Ireland, if it ever existed at all, is disappearing fast.
Irish people have always had a reputation, whether it's part of the mythology or not, of being fairly eccentric as far as peoples go. Do you think this is being lost?
I think so. People are beginning to arrive on time. Ireland was famed, perhaps for eccentricity, but certainly for a lack of punctuality. If an Irishman said he'd meet you, well, he might show up. He might show up a week after, or he mightn't show up at all. And this is not considered to be discourteous. It was considered to be normal behavior. I'm afraid I rather miss the unpunctual Irishman. He's dying out.
Of course, the pubs are still there, and the pints of warm beers. Some things will never change, presumably. But what do the young Irish say? The dot-com kids who've discovered that the pot of gold really belongs to them. Do they remember the bad old times?
Does it occur to you ever, walking around, just looking around to your, where you used to be?
No.
I think for the first time we're becoming a confident people, and I think in many ways for the first time, we are beginning to believe that we have taken our place among the nations of the earth.
I'm worried.
Why are you worried?
This.
It's a bottle of wine. They're for my people.
A very expensive bottle of wine.
I have very good people.
I'm still worried.
You're always worried.
I do the books. You pay me to worry.
Trust me, we can afford it.
We can?
We can.
In that case, champagne would have been nice.
Day in and day out, you know you can always count on Chevrolet. Now make your money count with $1,500 cash back on the 2001 Chevy Cavalier, or $1,250 cash back on the 2001 Malibu, or as low as 5.9 APR on Chevy Impala. Big cash back or as low as 5.9 APR. So make your money count at your local Chevy dealer today.
Show your brilliance with 20 to 60% off jewelry.
I wanna buy you a ring.
Like diamonds and cultured pearls for $100 or less at the JCPenney Holiday Jewelry Sale.
Diamonds and emeralds and gold and silver. I wanna
It's all inside. Let it shine. JCPenney.
60 Minutes 2, a CBS News magazine, continues in a moment.
Coming up tonight at 10 on Channel 4's Eyewitness News.
America waits for the Supreme Court to decide. We'll have
so pretty, I first set my eyes on sweet Molly Malone as she wheeled her wheelbarrow through the streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. She was a fishmonger, and sure 'tis no wonder, for so were her mother and father before. They both wheeled their barrows through streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. Town in the county down one morning in July. Down a boring green came a sweet colleen, and she smiled as she passed me by. She looked so neat from her two white feet to the sheen of her look out there. Such a coaxing elf, I had to shake myself to make sure I was really there. From Bantry up to Kerry, from Bantry to Dublin town, no veil I see like the brown colleen that I met in the county line. My head and again with a feeling where there is a sight to a pass cat from the banks of the bank, she's the star of the county now. From Bantry Bay up Kerry came, down with the Dublin town. No maid I see like the brown Colleen that I met in the county town. At the harvest fair she'll be surely there, so I dress in my Sunday clothes, with my shoe shot bright and my hat cocked bright for a smile from the nut brown rose. No pipe I smoke, no horse I yoke, till my gown is a rust-coloured brown, till a smiling bride by my own fireside is the star of the county down. From Bantry Bay to Kerry came, down by the Dublin town. No maid I see like this round Colleen that I met in the county down. I'm sitting all alone in the gloaming. It might have been but yesterday that we watched the fisher sails all homing, till the little herring fleet at anchor lay. Then the fisher girls with baskets swinging came running down the old stone way. Every lassie to her sailor lad was singing a welcome back to Bantry Bay. Then we heard the piper sweet no tuning, and all the lassies turned to as they mingled with a sweet voice crooning, till the music floated down the wooden pier. Save you kindly, Collins all, said the piper, hands across the trip while I play. And a tender sound of song and merry dancing stole softly over Bantry Bay. As I'm sitting all alone in the gloaming, the shadows of the past draw near, and I watch the loving faces round me that used to glad the old brown pier. Some are gone upon the last love homing, some are left, but they are old and gray, and we're waiting for the tide in the gloaming to sail upon the great highway to the land of peace unending, all peacefully from Bantry Bay. sit here remembering you, the scented dust like blessing falls, the flowers like dreaming in the dew, and sunbeams red on old red walls. On east like this it used to be, where life was full and love was new. But now there's nothing left for me but to sit here remembering you. When memory thus before me stands, my thoughts of you are bittersweet. You held my life within your hands. You crushed my dreams beneath your feet. But though no more I know your face, know where you are or what you do, I love you still for this last grace. But to sit here remembering my lonely prison wall, I heard a young girl calling. Michael, they are taking you away. For you stole Trevelyan's corn, so the young might see the morn. Now a prison ship lies waiting in the bay. All lie the fields of Rattle Ride, where once we watched the small sea birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams of songs to sing. It's so lonely round the fields of Athenry. By lonely prison wall, I heard a young man calling. Nothing matters, Mary, when you're free. Against the famine and the crown, I rebelled, they brought me down. Now you must raise our child with dignity. Where once we watched the small free birds fly. She watched the last star falling as the prison ship sailed out against the sky. So she live and hope and pray for her love in Botany Bay. It's so lonely round the fields of Ladies and gentlemen, as many of you know, John McDermott has not been a part of tonight's performance due to a family bereavement. However, he is with us here tonight to give his full support. Will you welcome, please, John McDermott.
I would like to first thank all of you who sent words of encouragement and prayers to our family at the time, and it was very much appreciated. They were married for 55 years, Peter and Hope. This was their song. And the more I listened to it, the more I understood the time frame from my father's passing to my mother's passing. 'Tis the last rose of summer left blooming alone. All her lovely companions are faded and gone. No flower of her kindred, no rosebud is nigh to reflect back her blushes or a gee sigh for sigh. So soon may I follow when friendships decay, and from love's shining circle the gems draw away. When true hearts lie withered and fond ones are gone, oh, this bleak world alone.